I'm pressing the go. Look at this real quick.
Do what?
I need to get this as a soundbite potentially. I probably can't isolate the music in the background.
If you come to prison and you're scared, just grab a sock and some batteries. Go down like that. Tie it up like this. Okay? You'll be ready for action, Jackson.
What? That wouldn't be a soundbite.
What? You're ready for action, Jackson? What are you talking about?
Ah, that bit. Okay. I didn't realize what bit you were taking. Oh my god. You shall be shitty.
Oh yeah. So this is Shark Zero asked Matt Walsh about why he likes to fuck little girls or something.
That's funny.
I figured we look at that real quick.
Yeah.
Well, my controller honks at me.
It's only 4 minutes, so why not?
Honk honk.
Honk. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Walsh. It's nice to see you. I've watched a lot of your content.
Appreciate it.
No problem. I wanted to ask the question. You said before, virtually every culture has its own child into adult initiation, almost all of them before the age of 18. And not only that, 16-year-old girls are mature enough to make their own decisions and even get pregnant and start families as well. And you even said 13-year-olds, if expected in society to act like 23-year-olds, that's what you'll get. My question is that you, I would imagine, as you've made clear here, I think, are against these types of medical interventions when it comes to transgenderism, trans ideology, however you would call it. Why would you say that these types of people are of the age of, to sip beer, be full-fledged adults, at least should be in the eyes of the legal status, but also, in quote, what you said, I believe on Twitter, that these are children under 18 when referring to trans medical care and services?
Yeah, so much of what you've pulled there is from, I think it's from Media Matters, his piece about a year ago, pulling comments from 10 years before that.
What a fucking whingy bitch.
That I was making there is simply a historical point. That back to history.
Historical. Remember when I said as soon as you start going into history stuff, when you're talking politics, Nazi.
You skip.
Instantly, it's just I'm going to justify fascism if you have to bring up history.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty common, especially among these people. Although I think he likes the term fascist. Is my inclinations, but who knows?
Used to get married a lot younger, and so they didn't have this. Pregnancy was not sort of the crisis, no matter what age it happened. The pregnancy was not often considered sort of the crisis that it is now because people got married younger. They started their journey into adulthood at a younger age. We don't live in that culture anymore. That used to be the culture that we lived in. And we also live in a culture now where we have this kind of extended adolescence that goes beyond the age of 18 and even up to 25 and beyond, where we treat even adults like they
this sounds like coke,
essentially children, which I've talked about as well. So we don't want to treat adults like they're children, but we also have to understand the psychological capacity of actual children, which is why performing a life-altering surgery on a child or giving them, for example, cross-sex hormones, which can happen at the age of 14 or younger,
there it is,
which sterilizes them. What you're making life-altering changes to their body, but they're sacrificing things about themselves that they can't possibly understand. Like they're making decisions that aren't really decisions because they're not old enough to make them, but they're making decisions for kind of the older version of themselves. Okay. So at the age of 14, I know I'm saying a lot more than you needed, but at the age of 14,
sounds like code.
The child is making the decision that I'm never going to have kids again in the future. And yeah, at the age of 14, you might think that. When I was 14, I thought that. When I was 24, I thought I'd never have kids. When I was 26, I had 2. Now I have 6. So kids at that age are not equipped to make those kinds of decisions.
Okay, but my question was more of, you just now you called them kids, but were these not your words, or do you change your opinion? Because what I'm confused about is before you would say things along the lines of these are adults, or should be in the eyes of either culture or society, but now you're saying in this age range of 13 to 16 or 19, in that age range, they're now children. Because I would imagine that giving birth for female body people, females, is a life-altering decision, one possibly even greater since you're bringing a new life into the world than just altering your own. So are these children, or are these adults?
What happened
These
there?
are children. I mean, under the age of 18 are children, and even
You hear that? So basically, what he's saying is someone that is 17 years, 11 months, and 29 days old. The second that calendar flips, they're now mature and able to make decisions. Is that what he's telling me? Is that what he's trying to get across?
What he's trying to say is he's one of the dudes who counted down the Olsen twins' 18th birthday.
He definitely did, though. And he definitely has some what's the chick who went off the rails in Mean Girls? What's her name? Lindsay Lohan. He was definitely one of those people as well. Counting down until she was 18. One of those weirdos.
even though we have this problem of extended adolescence that goes way into adulthood, really your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 25.
Okay. So even in specifically, marriages between these people and giving birth, you would say that's still child pregnancy, and those are children giving, making that decision and giving birth?
Yes, I'm against child pregnancy, if that's your question.
Okay.
It was very anticlimactic.
Yeah, kind of lame.
Yeah. Okay, let's
He's apparently against child pregnancy, even though he's hates abortion. Oh God,
yes.
This is gonna be so.
It's only 25 minutes.
It's gonna be so bad. I'm gonna hate both
Let's
of them,
fucking
man.
go.
The hearts and minds traditionally played out through diplomacy and propaganda is being played out online. My next guest has almost 500 million views for his provocative commentary online, making it hugely influential. Hasan Piker streams live under the name Hasan Abi. His analysis of the Israel-Hamas war has taken a highly critical stance towards Israel and Western media. And it's
being blurred up there.
Because he only cares about Israelis.
Now it's not blurred.
Hamas war.
He's got a blur box, see, up in the corner.
It looks like it's just covering Bernie Sanders, but I don't know what would be. But
then he cuts. He literally right after this he's cutting to a playback, and
taking
it's
a
not
highly
blurred.
critical stance towards Israel and Western media, and he's been calling me out for my coverage.
Yeah, because you suck.
Because he only.
See, it's not blurred there.
Yeah, it's like he was blurring the Queen and Bernie for some reason.
No, the Queen was visible. I don't know. Keep playing.
Weird.
He cares about Israeli citizens. He does not care about Palestinians as human beings. That's why it's apples to oranges. It's like one side is a human, the other side is a barbaric monster child.
I never said that, obviously. He says that he liked nothing more than to come onto his call me a baboon in a suit to my face. Well, here I am, a baboon, and he can join me now. I'm joined by Hasan. Hasan, thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Piers. It's very early here in Los Angeles, California, but I'm going to try to do my very best to not do my British accent while I'm here.
Well, I appreciate that. And listen, I appreciate
That
you
was
coming on. Explain to me why.
Piers literally was building him up. Basically, he talked a bunch of shit. He called me a baboon. He said, my mother is an orangutan. And then Hasan was like, I eat me.
It's pretty weak. He set him up to come out guns blazing.
I know,
would have
right?
been more entertaining.
I would have preferred it more if he was like, yeah, your mother's an orangutan.
To me, a stenographer for the Israeli government, given that in the last week, I think more than any other host in the world, I have given lengthy platforms to pro-Palestinian voices to articulate that side of the argument.
No, I do have to commend you. You certainly have had more pro-Palestinian voices than the rest of the British media, and certainly the rest of Western media in general. Now, as far as saying that you're a stenographer, I said that journalists are not supposed to be stenographers, and yet when it comes down to it, in most circumstances, in whatever conflict we may be in, there are stenographers for whichever party is aligning with the American State Department and the interests of the West in general. And Israel happens to be the one in this ongoing conflict.
But it's interesting that you call me a propagandist, because I want to play you. This was your reaction to when the hospital got
I'm
bombed.
a propagandist.
Well, no,
for the record.
No,
at least he admits it.
No, I'm just saying.
Hang on.
I'm saying I am.
Okay, well then.
So this whole thing where the interest of the State Department is interesting because Israel, much like Saudi Arabia, is a zero-sum game type relationship.
Yeah.
Especially with Netanyahu in power. I mean, look at Biden. Look at his favorability. I mean, like he was doing so good, and now it's dropping out. I was joking that Hamas shot Biden in the knee with this because Israel is not technically like, it's not like they're perfectly in line with policy, just like Erdogan isn't or Saudi Arabia isn't. You know, it's more of like, we'll take what we can get. Like Israel has leverage here that the United States doesn't. So like there's only so much pressure the United States can even do. That's why it's like that. Like I was talking about trying to explain to somebody that you give them more accurate bombs because in theory it's supposed to reduce civilian death counts.
Yeah.
It's a fucked up thing. That's a fucked up like way to go about a relationship like that.
Yeah, it's really hard to justify to people too.
I'm saying I am.
I just
before
want to
you even play it.
Okay, I'm going to play the clip. This is your reaction to the bombing of the hospital the other night.
While I was in the process of getting ready for the stream,
it's
Israel
the chat and
enacted,
something.
One of the singular worst strikes they have done thus far, and an airstrike, an Israeli airstrike, hit the Al Ahli hospital in Gaza City, where thousands of civilians were seeking medical treatment and shelter from the relentless bombing campaign.
Now, interestingly, when you were saying that, I was coming on air too, and I took a position based probably on
what Hasan needs to do here. Hasan needs to do here is he needs to say something like, because he retweeted something basically showing the other side that the impact crater was really small. He needs to sidestep and scapegoat this question that Piers is about to trap him in. But instead, I think I saw a clip of this earlier. I think he's about to go into how he's supposed to. I'm pretty sure this is the one I posted. He's going to go into how he's not supposed to do live news. But he did it this time. He's gonna submit to Piers, and give Piers all the power over this situation in the conversation. Because I've seen this next part, I think.
Being a journalist, running major newspapers, working at CNN and others, of waiting. I'm just saying, I think we should just wait and see what has actually happened here, get clarification, see who's actually to blame before we start passing judgment. You raced in to assume, as many people did, by the way, including the New York Times, BBC, mainstream media.
Piers did the right thing. He's a professional. That's all.
Yeah.
Isn't
that funny?
World then followed that this was clearly, indisputably, an Israeli airstrike on this hospital. And yet all the evidence now suggests very strongly that it wasn't. That in fact, this was a rocket that misfired coming from a terrorist group inside Gaza. So my question for you is this: Why would you?
I wouldn't go that far.
Why would you be so certain in what you say?
Don't argue. Please don't. This is exactly what you don't want to. We don't want to sit here and argue the fucking Palestinian death tolls, right? like I said, I was just talking with Ace, where it's like, like I focus, like when we get to tens of thousands, then I'll say tens of thousands. Right now, thousands are dying, right? That's all we need. Like, do not get into like bogged down in the numbers and shit like this. You got to sidestep this, man.
So first and foremost, before we get started on this conversation, let's understand something very important here. There's no electricity in Gaza. Internet is patchy in Gaza. There's no food in Gaza. There's no water in Gaza. This is all by design. This is because Gaza is under a brutal blockade, a brutal occupation by the Israeli government. Okay? So that plays...
Siege is more accurate. And it's also a more escalatory word where it is appropriate. Now, what he should do from here is he should highlight, because I think I showed you like the photos and stuff, how the people are in the grass.
Yeah.
I showed you corpses, right? Did I show you corpses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like that blast radius where we think, probably at least 100 people are dead in that like grassy area. Now, why are they there? Because Gaza's under the siege. The hospital is the only place that will get like internet, electricity, only access to water, So this siege that Israel is just taking straight out of Azerbaijan's playbook for Nagorno-Karabakh, they're trying to force the Palestinians out, but instead of them like leaving and going out and potentially having a second ethnic cleansing, they end up going to the hospital and they sleep in the hospital. So like there was like a chapel there. Well, you can see there was a lot of people sleeping in there. Like no injuries in there and stuff. So like the thing is that the early reporting made it sound like they literally bombed a hospital and killed 500 people. But these people who are sleeping in the parking lot are basically, it might be like first come, first serve. It might be a status thing, but they're there for a reason. It's supposed to be a safe place. The hospitals aren't supposed to be bombed.
Yes.
And if Israel was dropping a bomb, they wouldn't drop it where the impact crater was. They would drop it on the structure and take out the structure.
I think that's also a key point as well.
Yeah, so there's like this whole thing, like even like a guy from Forensic Architecture was like talking about this whole like airburst spike thing theory, and it's like airburst just to kill civilians sheltering in a parking lot. Like they have done revenge bombing, right? And like the bombing doesn't make sense at all. But then even on that, it's like, it's if there was evidence of a guided bomb dropped by Israel there, I wouldn't be surprised. I could say that.
Yes. Yeah.
But like an airburst specifically to hit civilians, like they would.
Yeah, the motive isn't there.
Is a role in the fog of war and the misinformation that gets spread. Having said that, however, you made it seem as though there is a certainty that this was 100% not an Israeli airstrike.
No, I didn't.
And instead,
I literally just said it's not a certainty.
Okay, sorry.
I said the evidence is increasingly pointing to this not being an Israeli airstrike.
Unless we have bomb fragments. We can't make a determination, and the bomb fragments were removed. So,
yeah, and at this point, it's all speculation.
Yeah, and Hamas is like, we're going to the ICC about this. We'll get the final say. I'm like, okay, do it, please. I would love it. Like honestly, like
that would be good.
If they brought themselves down in the ICC with Netanyahu, that would be like a based way to like go about it.
It would be pretty funny.
It would be based as fuck too. They go down for their own war crimes. Like that's real martyrdom right there.
Yeah,
and they could totally do it.
Theoretically, yeah.
Violence, they totally could.
Will they though? Probably not.
No. What do you mean? Hamas relinquish their power?
Yeah. Silly.
Yes. Well, I don't know which episode
Hasan
you're
agrees.
talking about, because I think Channel 4 did a pretty good job. As a matter of fact, I would say Channel 4 did probably the best job so far in analyzing everything that the IDF has said. But the reason why I believed...
Why in this circumstance would you go, hey, let's see what Israel said about it. Like, if your evidence is relying on Israel, you've already failed.
Still
The
do
best
believe
part is when they give
that
you the evidence and they don't know. Syria and Russia did this with the sarin bomb as well. Like Russia leaked or put out plans for like a new bomb they were doing, and it matched like the bombs that they had been seeing. And then they were able to like take these two fragments from the sarin bomb and realize that this was like the same bomb. And like the fragments that survived on the sarin bomb, there was never in a million years that anyone would have guessed that it came from this bomb. Because like it was like an outside pressure ring that was like the only fragment that survived that they could find.
Okay.
So like, and then I think one was like, you know how the bombs hook onto the plane, that little square hook. I think part of that survived or something.
Likelihood is that this was an Israeli bombing campaign wasn't only because of the singular verifiable video, the phone video from the balcony that had all of the markings of an airstrike. The fact that the Israeli Air Force was enacting a bombing campaign in the region
I was
at
going
the
to
time,
say,
according
I'm
to the
expert
Al Jazeera live
Hasan.
streaming footage that everyone is using but doesn't understand. The fact that the digital media person for the IDF immediedly came out and said that this was actually
oh my god, he's literally
an airstrike that hit a Hamas target.
Come on, dude. This is literally the main. There's like 3 main entry points we're seeing on this information. And like one of them is this guy that they're saying like it's like literally like he's like an Israeli like government official. He's literally like it's like trying to like use Marjorie Taylor Greene. But not just her, like her secretary saying something.
Okay.
And then running with that as like factual evidence. And like also like you have to look at like these people are so blinded that they can't look at how mischievous it goes beyond this, because like there was things that Israel put out and then like went back with, right? And it was like even evidence to prove that it was a misfire that they walked back. But people are only like looking at like these weird ones from like the Arab Israeli page, like all of these things that are not actually official or connected.
Yeah.
And so the way it looks is you can like that one person said, they psyoped the entire Middle East. Like the way Israel held back because they realized they could run with it. It's like how they immediately were trying to debunk the 40 beheaded children because they knew it was just going to hurt them later.
Yeah.
It's like that. And it's a clear in manipulation going on of information, especially when they see these embassies get attacked. They know that it benefits them because it puts pressure on these countries to like get involved to end it, because these countries know that if the ground assault happens, then the refugees happen, then this violence that's happening in these countries are only going to get worse. And then it also upsets the US because it's like their embassy. So the ability of Israel to manipulate the situation is something that shouldn't be underestimated as well.
I mean, they're displaying it.
I mean, you have to. It's hard. It's hard to see. You have to look for it.
Yeah,
they're good.
That he was sad that there were, casualties at the end of the day, but this was a Hamas target and celebrated it. And more importantly, I guess, the fact that this hospital had been bombed by Israel. This hospital had been bombed by Israel on Saturday. 22 hospitals have, as a matter of fact, been bombed by Israel since this last saga in the occupation. And this hospital had been bombed directly by Israel, where the cancer ward was destroyed.
You understand? You understand how you're helping Israel now, Hasan? You're giving if they are regularly bombing hospitals and they're only saying, "Hey, this one wasn't us," it's like a serial killer who says, "Oh, I didn't kill her. I killed all these people." You know, you should stop and take a step back and be like, "Wait a second." You know, like, come on, buddy.
He's not that smart.
I know.
Israel has been calling all of these hospitals to evacuate over and over and over again. The medical professionals at the hospital had been called by the Israeli government the day prior, and everyone on the ground assumes that this is an Israeli airstrike. They are the ones who experienced
But
the
Hasan,
scope
No
of the
shit.
situation.
Why would anyone on the ground assume differently? Do you think they're like? Do you think just because they get bombed every day, they're bomb experts? Like I've seen a lot of bombs, you know, and I wouldn't be able to tell you like who's like I could barely identify the fucking Russian aircraft bombing Idlib, you know, every day. Like it's like way outside my job. All right, like why would civilians not think any differently? And plus, like, there's no internet for them to even like get the correct information if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's a big problem. You want to talk about that?
When you have
but the
every
truth
single,
is,
can I
the
just
truth
finish
is,
this?
if you watch the
Can I just finish
BBC,
this?
if you watch the
Can I-
BBC account
Shut
of
up,
all this
Hasan.
last night, by their Verify unit, which was specifically set up by the BBC to be completely dispassionate in these investigations, and they reached a pretty clear conclusion based on circumstantial evidence. I'll make that clear, that this would not have been an Israeli airstrike, including, for example, the size of the crater, which bears no relation to the size of craters normally left by Israeli air. So, look, my point is, neither of us know for sure. But you took to your airways immediately.
Piers did
because
it.
Actually, your
What?
Piers is the one who sidestepped him. Piers fucking owned him. I told you it was going to happen. So Piers argued his thing and says, but the point is we don't really know.
Yeah. Completely demolished his entire like 5-minute rambling in 3 words. Because Hasan is a useful idiot. He just repeats what he sees on Twitter.
I wouldn't even say unconscious bias. Your admitted propagandist bias on your part was that you wanted that to be an Israeli airstrike. It suited your narrative. And I would say that that in itself, in its way,
wanted it to
well,
be
come on,
really,
come on. He
just
close to
owned him,
self-realization, bro. He was so close to having an awakening right there.
He
Did you
just
see the
owned
screw?
him.
The fucking gear turned in Hasan's brain. He
You
almost
could see
had
it.
the awakening.
Yeah, almost. Very, very close. He's not coming back from that. There's almost 20 minutes left.
He's going to violently reject it just like a religious person would reject something. It's only going to enhance his life.
I guess we'll see.
Being a stenographer, I try and be fair and get to the truth. In your case, I don't think you try to do that. I think you appeal to your audience, appeal to your base, and you don't really care whether the facts are there or not.
This is entirely unfair because you just said circumstantial evidence favors that this was not an Israeli airstrike.
Yeah.
I gave you all of the circumstantial evidence that it does favor that this is an Israeli airstrike. The reason why, however, circumstantial evidence.
What?
You said he literally said nothing, Hasan. This is like,
Hasan.
I mean, it's just like the years that I've dealt with this shit with fucking chemical attacks and shit. Fucking witness it with my own eyes. Hate these people.
Evidence is not enough. And the one thing that I will concede to, because when more information did come out, and no, I do not mean when
you should have done this in the beginning, you dumb fuck.
This hospital, and it was actually Hamas, and then they turned around and went, never mind, it's not Hamas, it's actually Islamic Jihad. And then they said, we have more evidence coming out in a couple hours. And then the evidence came out, and it turns out it sounded like the phone conversations that they were able to intercept supposedly.
That's the worst. How do you do the worst piece of evidence? Like literally, like none of the investigation teams would put credit to this phone call, right? Like, so we had a language expert look at this and determined that one of the people in the phone call is a native Farsi speaker. Like he almost says a word in Farsi and stops himself and goes back to Arabic and has that accent, right? And these would be foreigners, right? So they don't have Gaza accents, either one of them. So a lot of people from Gaza were like, I'm from Gaza. This isn't how we talk. What the fuck is this? You know, like, but the reason why they don't know, like they have to describe, oh, it's the cemetery behind the hospital and apparently it was one of ours, and they like have these like pauses and thinking, like these guys aren't exactly familiar with it. It would make sense, it would be in line with foreign fighters. That said, you never put out intercepted phone calls if you're a military. It's just unrealistic that happened. So like for me, I lean more of that being inauthentic. But if it is also inauthentic, it's one of the best pieces of inauthentic media I think I've ever seen. You're muted.
It's that good, huh?
Yeah, running it by language experts, that's like what they're, I mean, these are like intelligence, like, you know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
By experts at the very least, to be completely false and completely made up.
Yeah, but Hasan, I don't think. Listen. In all honesty, I don't think even as you're saying all this, I think you're a smart guy.
Piers, let me finish.
I think you've looked at all of this, and I think in your
That's
heart,
where you're wrong,
you know
bucko.
this is probably not an Israeli airstrike. And I'm just curious why you would, instead of admitting that as facts change,
that is
your
not what
opinion
I'm saying.
change.
That is not what I'm saying at
I
all.
don't understand why you would double and treble down.
You're not listening to what he said. He said, I think I know in your heart, you know this was not an Israeli airstrike. And now it gets to the point where you're arguing about whether or not this was an Israeli airstrike instead of arguing that thousands have died already. And like, where does it end? That's the argument. Always bring it back to where does it end if you're going to go up against these people. Just keep going. Where does it end? It's like with cops where you say they're free to go, right? Same strategy. Don't give them an inch.
You're asking me to be on your show. You're asking me to be on your show. Do you want to talk?
Yes.
If you're asking me to be on your show, and I want to be on the show, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Pathetic.
Let me explain exactly what I said,
and
let me explain to you why
It's
I
so
think
petty.
still, to this very moment, until there is a third-party investigation that is concluded by the UN, the International Criminal Court, or specifically a forensic analyst that that looks at the situation.
What do you mean literally What do you mean, forensic analyst? Haven't given the fucking bomb fragments, bro. Like, you understand? We get those bomb fragments. We literally have video of where we see the rocket malfunction and the motor break.
Mhm.
Right? You can then do a literal mathematical equation to figure out how
the landing
it broke apart and how these pieces landed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so much data that, like, that's the only way to do it. And, like, for example, the chemical attack is a chlorine attack on an apartment complex in Syria. It's an infamous one. The reason why they were able to get the bomb fragments and the data to independent investigators was because it was in rebel controlled territory. So unless Hamas puts out a video showing us where these bomb fragments are at the ICC and takes down Bibi, because it ends up being like a super Israeli stealth bomb that looks exactly how a rocket would impact if it malfunctioned, and somehow a rocket malfunctioned in that exact area at that exact time.
Fooled everybody.
I mean, it would be cool if that happened.
It would be. It would be a very wild advance in technology.
The fact that our main pieces of evidence come from Al Jazeera and Quds media, and it's not the narrative that they're pushing, but actually they put out the narrative trying to dismiss the narrative and accidentally like proved and showed like where we can line up with times when the rockets hit and stuff.
That's so funny.
And then their Quds are the one who fucking posted the walkthrough in the impact crater that changed.
Yeah.
That gave us so much mathematical stuff, because then we're actually able to line it up on Google, and we're able to see like where these things were. But we did see some early stuff like the corpses and stuff at night.
Yeah.
And Al Jazeera posted a highly edited video.
Love that.
In the beginning.
Thanks, Qatar.
Where there's still fire.
Not just my perspective. This is B'Tselem as well, which is an Israeli organization that has also demanded a third-party investigation occur. I am not going to conclusively say that this was not Israel's fault.
I don't expect you to.
Because I just gave you. Because
Piers,
I'm a
Hasan, Piers just said that he won't conclusively say. You dumb fuck. You dumb fuck. He can't even move on.
Everyone is a propagandist. I'm just honest about it. You're a propagandist.
He practiced this line so much.
You think I'm a
and Piers won't let him have it. He wanted this line about propaganda so much, and Piers keeps interrupting him and not letting him take it. Like, you can tell this is the narrative that Hasan practiced, is this one right here, the propagandist thing. He now said it like 4 times.
Propagandist
honest
for?
About my bias.
Who do you think I'm a propagandist for?
Who do I think you're propagandist for?
Don't you work for
whichever
BBC?
you're,
No, he's
every
not
media
BBC.
person is doing propaganda.
Yeah, but who for? I've got to be doing it with
doesn't-
somebody.
You think it's a bad word? I don't. That's just the difference. This is a
I
semantic.
do. I
It's
think
a
it's
good
actually quite a
deflection.
serious charge.
Uninteresting.
Hasan, I think it's a serious charge to level. Not on a
Hasan doesn't
podcaster,
understand what
but
propaganda
there's a
means.
journalist
No,
who's
he doesn't.
broadcasting around the world who has a reputation, I believe, for being fair and impartial, actually, on these issues. It's quite a charge to just say, I'm a stenographer for the Israeli government or I'm a propagandist. I don't think there's any evidence that I'm either of those things. I'm curious who you think I am doing
While
the
we're
propaganda
having this
for.
conversation, 3,000 Piers. While we're having this back and forth, 3,840 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered.
The number.
The numbers are always going to change anyway. Just say thousands, bro. Come on. They walk right into
In the
it.
last
Yeah.
incursion into Gaza, I feel like this is an incredibly selfish, self-centered conversation to have. You asked me to be on here. You wanted to hear my perspective. I'm willing to give it to you.
What?
I said he should have done this 8 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk about Noam Chomsky style manufacturing consent conversations about how the media is operating in the behest of
You were the
capitalism.
guy. Listen,
I think
you were
this is a
the
silly
guy that
conversation to
called
have.
me.
There are dead people.
Listen, Hasan, I only asked you because you're the guy that called me a propagandist and called me a baboon in a suit. I was curious as to why. You don't want to say who I'm doing the propaganda for. We'll move on. I agree with you. There's a bigger picture here. Let's move on.
Here's got him again. Here's got him again being where Piers is now seeming like he's the bigger humanitarian. I agree with you. There are bigger things going on.
It's so funny. He's walking into it every single time. He has no clue.
Right. I want to come back. I want to talk to you about what happened on October the 7th, get your reaction to that. Welcome back, Hasan. Piker is still with me. Hasan, I want to just play you a clip of something that you said about the October 7th terror attacks, and in particular, the attack at the music festival.
What?
His biggest critic uncensored, Hasan Piker, has 2.5 million online followers. Like, they put the online followers in there too to be like, haha, he's not even on real television. Piers isn't getting those numbers. Like, shut the fuck up. What a tool.
260 people.
Look at this guy. You know what shouldn't happen? Killing 260 people at a music festival. No, you're right, man. That just happened on its own because, like, bad guys wanted to do bad things. You're right. Dude, if they subjugated you to a open-air prison your whole life, you're going to...
Isn't this guy in the interview? Isn't this the guy they brought on for, it was like MSNBC, and he was full on, like, it was during the attack where he hadn't known that civilians had been killed yet. Right? And
I think it might be, yeah.
Makes like a statement being like, they're not attacking civilians, they're attacking military targets. Because he's giving them the benefit of the doubt, you know? Now, this interview is fucking sick. This guy, like, totally, like, this guy's great. And I think if it's the guy I'm thinking of, he's also in a non-aligned party that's not loyal to Hamas or the authority. He's like a end apartheid actual type party, I think. If it's the guy I'm thinking of.
It's going to break out eventually when you realize that there's no other way to get out of it.
I mean, it sounds to me there, Hasan.
That's it?
You are in some way saying...
What do you mean?
Hasan just says that, of course, you're going to break out of there when there's no way to break out and you're subjugated. That's the worst thing you could find to him saying about that attack. Okay, buddy.
Yeah,
okay, Piers.
Yeah, it was a bit strange.
That's a bit of a soft
I had
one.
it coming.
Were
you?
No, I wouldn't say that they had it coming. I think that Michael Brooks used to say, analysis is not justification. And while obviously civilian casualties and horrific barbaric acts that were committed on October 7 are completely unacceptable, the important thing to make sure that it never happens again is to analyze what are the conditions as to how it happened to begin with. And I think Ehud Barak is going to be on in a little bit as well, or maybe he's on before me. And I'm almost certain that while he has held the keys to the conversation and held the levers of the power in this conversation in many key and critical points, I would go so far as say that he is among many others who also recognize that the Bibi Netanyahu administration is responsible. This is not just my assessment. This is 85% of the Israeli population's assessment at the time.
According to who? 85%?
Oh no, everyone hates Bibi. This is 100% Bibi's fault. Yeah.
Okay.
But I would also, I think you should also bring it back and always get in there that the apartheid and like that's where you can have but when you tie them down is getting into the apartheid conversation.
Yes.
And you have to be ready to have that conversation. I'm not. I would not go and argue apartheid with Piers.
Fair enough.
Is
mainly because
and years.
If you're already not accepting apartheid happening, I'm not interested in really having a conversation with you.
No,
like, come back when you learn something.
It's a fair statement, I think.
Years of refusing to negotiate with the Palestinian Authority. Don't take my word for it. Take
I would
personal
agree.
word for it.
I would agree again.
In a closed-door conversation with Likud members, he said that if you want to support any kind of Palestinian nation state, you must.
Is that one on our tally?
No. I'm surprised he knows though.
Okay.
Like that's like if you bring up the Likud party being in control, that's normally people would just say conservative. If you say Likud specifically, you are generally a little bit more informed on Palestine and Israel.
Must do everything you can to only negotiate with Hamas. We control how high the fire goes. He has given cash to Hamas by way of Qatar. There is no bigger fan of Hamas than Bibi Netanyahu, which I hope one day you can maybe interview, and then you'll ask him to.
No, I actually did interview him a few months ago, and I did actually spell out to him that there have been a lot more Palestinian deaths this year so far, up to the point of the interview, than Israelis, and what he intended to do about it. He said then he didn't believe in collective responsibility, which is now this hot phrase in this whole crisis about whether you would hold all people in Gaza responsible for Hamas. Interesting to see if when they.
Can I ask
let me just finish my point. If they do then launch a ground invasion, it'd be interesting to see if they keep to that word. You know, I'm not a defender of what Bibi Netanyahu has been doing in Israel. In the last year, his attack on the credibility and integrity of the Supreme Court, I think, has been a disgrace, and I think it has fractured society in Israel.
If Piers drops, I think it's an apartheid state. That would be like, bro, he will literally have all the power in this conversation if Piers just goes, and it's an apartheid state. I don't think he recognizes it though.
I wouldn't think so. Surely not, right?
He could surprise me.
Maybe.
Unrest and had such big protests that you could argue it's taken the eye off the ball of the people who should have been defending the border because they've been trying to sort out what's been going on domestically, internally inside Israel. So I think it's a catastrophic failure of intelligence, of security, of defense, all of those things. I'd be amazed, frankly, if Netanyahu survives this. So I'm certainly not here to defend him, even if you do view me as a stenographer for his government. My question for you, I think, is this. Is that I've had a lot of problems trying to get people on the pro-Palestinian side to separate two things. That you can say, as I believe and you believe, that the Palestinians have been maltreated for decades. That the situation where they are effectively, I mean, I don't even call it an occupation because Israelis aren't in Gaza. They pulled out in 2005.
Jesus,
but they still control the ability of Gazans.
This is why I call you a propagandist.
No, I'm just saying the phraseology is confusing to me because the reality is Israel exercises control over people in Gaza. It allows them in and out. It allows them to turn on the tap of water and so on and so on. I get all that. They don't actually live there because they can't live side by side with each other.
That's why it's called an open-air prison.
Right. I don't disagree.
That's why they call it the world's largest open-air prison.
Yeah, but Hasan, I don't disagree with you. And I've pointed this out for a long time as a journalist. So we don't disagree about the appalling plight of Palestinian people.
Piers is being based as fun.
The issue comes that if you can't separate that ongoing dispute between Israel and Palestine from the absolutely appalling barbarism of October the 7th, which was on a whole different scale to anything we've seen.
Okay.
Where
So this is the
people,
typical thing. Like, so Hitchens always thought this was an own, that he couldn't get Palestinians to denounce Hamas. It's like they have family in Palestine, Chris.
Yeah, no shit.
You know, like, you're not owning these kids. That you're fucking. He was the original Ben Shapiro shits on kids at college guys, and it was just Muslims, right?
Yeah.
Now, so Hasan is in a position, and Piers is in a position where the question should be, how can you denounce Hamas and support Palestine? And that's basically what he's asking, right? You know, like, and then you can get to me where I can denounce, I can defend Al Qaeda and denounce 9/11. But
it's an elite skill.
But so with Hamas, it is so easy if you just didn't bootlick power structures. You know, and both these people bootlick power structures, and you just recognize that Hamas is benefiting. The leader of Hamas is in Qatar. Like, he was fucking surprised when the attack happens, right? He lives a life of luxury. You know, there is, even though they just kill him, you know, there's Hamas family members that were killed and stuff like that. But like, there is a hierarchical structure where even if you know people would benefit, you're not going to try to remove yourself from power. It's a problem with power. It happens everywhere. That's why you need like affirmative checks and balances, which Hamas obviously doesn't have. The only checks and balances they have is splinter groups, and people think that Hamas is a singular organization. And not only that, you can denounce militant Hamas and still defend like the politician side, because the Israeli state doesn't punish the political side of Hamas. They only punish the militant side. And Israel has had a policy where they would do precision strikes that would still kill kids and stuff like that. And they target specific members who were responsible for certain attacks, things like that. They've shown that they're capable of that, which is even more of a reason why they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. The fucking carpet bombing and glassing of Gaza. If they can take out precision targets anyway. So if they're already punishing, and this is a hard thing for Israel to do, like, this is something that you could recognize where it gets complicated for them, is to find who's responsible for these certain things, to take out those responsible parties. Whether you support them doing that or not, you can recognize that at least it's a hard thing to do. And that's why they resort to, fuck it, let's just bomb the fuck out of them, because they don't want to make the effort, because they don't see them as human beings. Now, it is easy to recognize that Israel empowered Hamas. You can look at do we think Gaza had free and fair elections in 2006? They certainly haven't had any since, literally zero elections since. To look at the power structure, literally the people who go into these militant groups under 25 in the West Bank, all of them are waiting for the Palestinian Authority to die, because they're all fossils who just appease the state. And they think that their sons, and how they pass down this hierarchy, they think the next people are somehow going to be better. They're like holding on to this hope in a way, when there is no hope, and they should just really be picking up rifles and killing settlers.
Holocaust survivors, babies in their cribs, you know, young women taken, tortured, abused, shot, beheaded.
We don't need the crocodile tears shit. We know what happened.
If we can't look at that collectively, with a
oh my, please don't get Hasan. He's going to loop him into Hasan defending these atrocities.
Yeah, and there's something wrong with this, and I find that the tribalism on both sides is now so toxic and so frenzied.
Please sidestep Hasan. Please sidestep Hasan.
Can't. We've had a bunch
just
of
say that it's caused by the conditions of apartheid.
Saying they want a ceasefire in Gaza and calling Israel war criminals and so on, but they don't say a word about the Hamas attacks that precipitated this. And I find that really hard, right? Really hard to accept.
But do you agree with them? If they had said, for example, that October 7 attacks were brutal and massacres occurred, and then they said everything else, that Israel is committing war crimes, would you agree with them?
Okay, here's what I would honestly say about that. Is Israel not allowed to defend itself from the worst terror attack we've seen since 9/11?
I fucking hate this argument because Israel has spent the last 70 years trying to eradicate these people. Nothing they do is a provocation, it's only defense. The war's ongoing.
Also,
It's never stopped.
Also, what do we think Hamas's goal was? To get people killed in Gaza. It's literally terrorism 101. It's like the first thing. Like, Hamas has shown that Bibi cannot protect people. Big part of it. The next part of it. Show the deaths in Gaza. Build up the outrage. And guess what? I'm fine with it. I'm not fine with people being killed in Gaza. I'm fine with building up the outrage. I'm fine with tokenizing the victims to build up outrage to charge with war crimes. I'm not like into exaggerating deaths and things like that. I want to just whatever we can do to end apartheid. If it gets us there, if this attack on October 7th gets us to ending apartheid a few months from now, then maybe let's ask how we feel about it. Let's give it some distance. Or it can be like 9/11, where it collapsed the Middle East into chaos. Because that might happen too. This attack might collapse the Middle East into chaos the way shit's going.
Can you imagine?
I can imagine. That's why I'm worried.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy.
Is it not allowed to defend itself
just odd.
after
You said you're not a
1,400 people in Israel
propagandist.
are butchered in that way? And the question then, if you assume that they are able to defend themselves, as any
Piers,
free
that is
democratic country,
that is the
then the
Israeli
question
State
becomes,
Department line.
Hasan,
That is the IDF's line. That is
Hasan,
the line that everyone
Hasan, let me ask you
channels.
this. It then becomes a question of how can they defend themselves? If their mission now is to get rid of Hamas, a terror organization that's committed one of the worst acts of terror ever seen, if that is their stated aim, then what they are doing is consistent with that, isn't it?
No. Here's why this is actually an abject failure, and this is not just my
I got a
perspective
hot
on the
take.
matter. I'm just
The fall of the Republic of Afghanistan was worse than this attack.
Dumb idiot with a Twitch stream who is live reacting to the news.
This is what I
and trying to
saw.
make sense of everything.
Just a dumb idiot. Okay, Joe Rogan.
It's ongoing. I usually have a policy of not covering breaking news, and sometimes that policy is violated. But ultimately, I am not held up by the same journalistic standards, even though I think I do a much better job than most other news outlets in general. So let me just say this really quickly.
I'm pretty sure we had another video showing that those corporate press did better than you on multiple occasions. Just pointing that out.
Did we release those videos? What are those called?
I'm not sure. But there are definitely videos where the corporate press did better than him on a story. And we pretty much disintegrate his entire argument in the videos too. It's great. If they're released, find them.
I have this one where he talks about China. We have the Johnny Harris one.
Might be one of those. No, it wouldn't be China because the corporate press doesn't talk about China.
True. Good play.
You said Israel has a right to defend itself. Absolutely zero people think that this is a ridiculous statement. However, how Israel is defending itself is collective punishment. Now, collective punishment in the form of depriving 2.2 million people of electricity, collective punishment in the form of depriving them of water, of food, collective punishment of in the form of 51 people dying in the West Bank, where, there's no Hamas in the West Bank, and yet 51 people have died because in the West Bank, settlers that are occupying Palestinian territory in violation of the international law, settlers who are doing an act of colonial terrorism, and this is not my statement on
and
it,
in America, this is why I totally am comfortable with saying it. In America, we believe that you can shoot people that are on your property. It is not their property. So what does that mean?
Means they should pick up guns.
They do.
Maybe they should contact Hamas.
Here's the issue, though. Here's the issue. And it makes sense because why would you shoot armed people who can shoot back, right? So a lot of times these militants that are not terrorists, they're not declared terrorists by the state of Israel, and that's why it's okay to say that they're totally based. They end up killing civilians that are still settlers But it's like you know how I can say that like we should be honest that John Brown didn't kill slave owners, he killed people who supported slave owners, right?
Yes.
It's kind of like that. These people may not have killed Palestinians, but they support what settlers do. They probably support price tagging, which is like basically when you go and you break Palestinians' windows as an Israeli, it's illegal. You'll get arrested for it, but it's basically it's a part of the settlement that's supported by the Israeli state.
Okay.
Horrifying things by simply just existing there and maintaining the presence with an occupying force in the form of IDF, who was ritualistically humiliating Palestinians in a structure that B'Tselem, an Israeli organization, calls the permit regime, where every waking moment of Palestinians' lives in the West Bank are absolute hell, where they have no legal recourse. 51 Palestinians have died, and that was before the Ramallah protest that happened last night, and the Israeli forces were opening up with live fire on protesters last night. So who knows what that death toll has become? This is all a product of Israel being an apartheid state. This is a violent apartheid state. There is no way to be a peaceful apartheid
let me ask you
state.
This.
It is a violence. It is a violence required for its maintenance.
Okay, listen.
And that violence is frustrating people.
I hear
that
you.
violence is radicalizing people.
But here's
Don't stop, Hasan. Keep going.
Israel, as far as what Benjamin Netanyahu has done, as far as the war government, what they have done, Piers, going into Gaza and bombing Gaza and killing 3,480 Palestinians so far in Gaza, 1,000 plus children out of all of those casualties. 22 hospitals being bombed, a bakery, the only remaining intact bakery being bombed yesterday. These are horrifying crimes that you would openly say are horrifying and unjustifiable when Russia does it, but when Israel does it, Israel has a right to defend itself. This is identical to the same talking points that I've heard from every Israeli administration official. It's the same talking points that I've heard from American politicians championing the exact same talking points. It's the same thing that I've heard from everyone else in the media. You might have been against the Iraq war and you use that, but you're using that for evil, in my opinion, at this point. If you are not sitting here and condemning those acts of war crimes, those acts of violence, those acts of collective punishment.
Well, I would say to that I think the death of any child in this conflict is horrific, absolutely horrific. But the question comes down to me.
You counted well.
After an act of terror, as we saw on October the 7th, Israel should be able to defend itself and should be able to go after the people who perpetrated
Boo!
Boo! In Gaza.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
And
no.
The question for me becomes
No. This isn't you do not go back to September 11th when we started justifying torturing people. Okay? We do not go back to 9/11 where we started fucking doing black sites and we allowed Arab governments to basically export the prisoners that they were already holding without charge to be held by us without charge. These people who haven't done anything wrong, people who may have financed attacks, financed September 11th, but don't understand what they were financing. They just thought they were giving to a Muslim organization, because I've talked about it, like even in the US, you'll go outside of the mosques and they'll have pamphlets and stuff. You know, is it like supposed to be the job of the mosque to go through and make sure like all these pamphlets are for good things? Like, weren't we just saying that the Mujahideen in Afghanistan were good people? Isn't that our whole narrative? Didn't we defend them through all of that? You know, so it's this idea that all of a sudden everything is justified. It's not. None of it is justified. Like look at how we got baited into Iraq, you know, and anyone who can recognize how Al-Qaeda did that. Also, the video, they'll be out in a few days. I just finished the editing on the Iran video. And you know how like the thing she says in there, how America helped coup the Shah to put in the Ayatollah. I found declassified CIA intelligence that confirmed what she was saying.
Interesting.
So it's different. It's not how you would think, though. It is literally exactly how a terrorist would operate. Now, the Ayatollahs literally outsmarted them. I said it, it's like the capitalist rats running to escape the sinking ship that is capitalism. He was able to be like, oh no, I'll be in line with your interest. It's the same thing Castro did. Castro did the same thing. They tell the Americans, oh yeah, we'll make deals with you, and the Americans basically stand aside. But it was guess who it was? It was Brzezinski, the same guy behind the Army of the Mujahideen. The reason why Pakistan is a nuclear state.
No shit.
It came from him for those police. Remember I said how the army stood down because the Shah was sick? It came from him. He's the one who stood those police down that made the revolution possible. Would the revolution still have happened if those police didn't stand down? That's to be determined. The point is that there is truth to what that said, that the Americans technically did help put him in power. And the CIA, it's funny because like you look at the CIA, and of course they hate Brzezinski for this one too, but they didn't even understand like what Shia Islam was.
Yeah,
and like they had to study it, and they were saying that like everyone was of the mindset that he would just be like a revolutionary father for the revolution, and someone else would come in line or something like that.
Okay.
Because he died right after,
Comes down to what is proportionate. I don't know the answer, Hasan. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what that answer is.
I do know the answer to that. Last night I had Dr. Ofer Kassif, an Israeli Knesset member who was expelled, suspended for 45 days for saying what I believe is the truth. Championing the exact same position of the Haaretz's editorial board. There are a lot of thoughtful people, a lot of formative Holocaust scholars, a lot of historians that all agree on the same point. The reason why violence that even penetrates through the Israeli security blanket that people thought existed, that penetrated through that Iron Dome, the Iron Wall, if you want to call it that, is because of years and years of oppression and years of violence, which is a necessity to maintain an apartheid state. And this has to stop. There's only two ways out of this. Either you engage in full-blown ethnic cleansing, and if you listen to the likes of Smotrich, or if you listen to the likes of Itamar Ben-Gvir and these very unfavorable, unpopular far-right figures, if you listen to Netanyahu and his Likud government, they say they are interested in going in that direction, the ethnic cleansing direction, the ethnic displacement direction.
True.
Or the only way out of this for a real solution is to move towards peace, to genuinely have,
he's right.
To genuinely end the blockade, to end the apartheid, to end the occupation.
He said apartheid.
Create a pathway.
He said it before as well.
For all people with a right to return, for all 14 million Palestinians.
This is good too. Right to return is good to throw in. 5 million of which
live under Israeli occupation. It's brutal, and then the rest living in diaspora. These are not unreasonable requests. These are requests that understand the dignity and the humanity of one side, and does not simply treat them as their colonial subjects.
Hasan,
and it's the only way to create
keep going, Hasan,
and prosperity in the region.
If it was as simple as that, I'm sure that would have happened already. I would say
fuck
I
you.
All of what you've just said, not all of it, a lot of it. I don't think you can ever achieve peace now with Hamas controlling Gaza.
Yeah,
I don't think you can achieve peace with Netanyahu in charge of Israel. Actually,
Get him out.
His own people will want him to be in charge of Israel down below when they examine exactly how this happened. But we will see.
What if they both go to the ICC? Solution.
That would be the holy grail.
That's the main solution that I'm advocating for right now is ICC.
That would be great.
And if we can use the hospital bombing to stress for people to call for ICC, whatever, I'm for it. Go ahead, tokenize the lives, whatever.
If it means something happens, then fine.
Good to talk to you. You know, you're an important, influential voice to a lot of people. And I think we have a lot of common ground, and there are some things that we disagree about, but I suspect it's not as much as you think. You know, I do think that the core problem here has got to get resolved in a way that's been completely ignored for decades. And until it gets resolved, until the plight of the Palestinian people is resolved, until all these young people in Palestine feel there's some sense of hope and they can get out of what effectively is, as you say, a prison camp, then nothing is going to change.
I think prison camp is better to say than open air prison, honestly.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you on that one.
Mainly because I've been to prison camps and I've seen the conditions that they're in.
Yeah.
I say I got to finish it, but I don't think it justifies in any way what happened on October the 7th. But I do agree with you.
What if I told you that most of the atrocities on October the 7th weren't committed by Hamas, but people like the Haqqani network, Daesh?
You'd break their
like
brains.
That. Well, like, so I said this, like, James tagged me in something because, like, both of us separately came across this type of intelligence. And I asked Scott about it, and Scott refused to comment, but he sent me a link showing that other people have said something.
Interesting.
So what I have seen is, like, you know, the uncles, the typical Uncle Gaza type in polos protecting a woman. I've seen people who are clearly Hamas protecting people. I've seen Hamas also committing massacres. And then there's like a recent video where he shoots the girls underneath the desk. The first guy who comes in the room, he doesn't want to shoot them. He hesitates, and the next guy who comes in basically like initiates it, because if one person shoots, the rest will shoot. It's one of those things. Now, so it's not that most of the atrocities were committed by foreign fighters. It's that the scale and level of atrocity that came would not be possible if it wasn't for foreign fighters. So if we're going to talk about Hamas saying that the things that happened haven't justified the events of October the 7th, are we just talking about killing civilians? Because if we're talking about killing civilians, both sides kill civilians, right? If we're talking about like the desecration of corpses and things like that, you know, you're getting to the next level of atrocity there. So when it comes to this, you can totally make the argument, especially if you're brain broken, that Hamas didn't actually do any of the atrocities. You got to be real brain broken to go there. But I'm willing to, like, there's evidence that meets in the middle there that shows that maybe Hamas weren't the main planners of atrocity. We also don't know how these individual cells had plans. We assume that the most hardcore militant Hamas were the ones that like hit those hard points, like the first responders and things.
Yeah.
And this, like, then like their information packets that took them to the communes to massacre people, like those people would have been a little bit more professional. But it depends as well, because we've also seen we've seen different skill sets among a lot of these people. Like when we were mentioning that there's this infamous video of the porta potties, right? The guy, you can see the guy select single fire and fire a round in each one of the porta potties. That's like something a professional killer would do, right?
Yes.
That's clear training. That's a trained killer. That's not going to be just like some young blood in Hamas that has an AK and is participating in the raid.
Yeah, that's like some seasoned genocide shit.
Yeah. It's basically over.
There will never be peace. Sam, I appreciate you joining.
What's next? Let's go a random one.
Well, I gave you in order the Vivek stuff.
Oh, you want the next one?
I mean, couldn't go in order. So if it gets, if they start talking about shit we don't care about, we'll go to the next clip. Since they cut out into clips already for
you.
Here we go.
Over the former president.
Yeah, look, I think that the more he's being unjustly prosecuted and really attacked using the levers of the justice system, the more I felt a sense of obligation to stand up for what is right. And I also believe in judging based on results. What are the results that I ultimately judge a president by? Did you keep us out of wars? And did the economy grow under your watch? There's a lot of other things that matter too, but those are two easy metrics. And I said he was the best president of the 21st century. That's what I said in the debate stage. I stand by it. George Bush, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Donald Trump. It's not even close which one was the best one of the century. And so I respect him.
So far, it seems like Joe Biden takes that crown.
Did he say of the century?
No, of the 21st.
Oh, okay.
So the current one.
Quiet down, you. The fat one's in the lower cage today. He's honking at me now.
And probably more than any.
Z1 out.
He's just going. The honk, this weird honk noise he does at me.
Other GOP presidential candidate. Yeah. When I'm president, I will respect his legacy.
You're not going to be president,
and honor it more than anybody else will, because I think it's the right thing to do, and I think it moves the country forward.
Yeah.
However, I have something that he does not. I am young. I have fresh legs. I think it's going to take somebody coming in from the outside.
I have a brain made of soup.
True, fresh perspective to lead the America First movement to the next level. I think I can unite this country by reaching the next generation.
I don't think the racists are going to follow someone without white skin. Just an inkling. Hey, look, we've got someone who heard me say that.
I'm sitting here trying to update my fucking caption.
This is great.
Of young Americans that have lost all semblance of national pride. And I can give you statistics to back that up. I mean, 60% of young Americans today say they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok. We have a 25% recruitment deficit in the U.S. military. Less than 16% of Gen Z says they're proud to be American. And I think there is no question which Republican candidate is, really which candidate, period, in this race is best reaching young voters at a large scale. We see it in college campuses across this country. And so, yes, I think I will be able to reach that next generation and inspire national pride in that next generation better than anybody else.
Do we need it now?
So, Vivek, you're saying
we got 3 people
then
now.
By definition, you're running against him. You are better than the best president of the 21st century. And that the main reason why you're better than Donald Trump is because you're younger than Donald Trump.
Chunk got him.
He's not gonna have an answer.
No, Chunk got him. This is such like a trap Chunk just pulled him into. Like, what do you mean? You're the better than the president of the best president? You think you're better than him?
Am I understanding that right?
And because as a function of being younger, I'm going to be able to reach the next generation, reunite this country. Awesome. And I do think that reuniting this country and reaching the next generation will be part of what allows us to take the America First agenda to the next level.
I got you, but
I won't be.
But you're better than Donald Trump, right?
Well, I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I was the best candidate for the job. So yes, I believe I am the best candidate for U.S. president. I think there are 2 America First candidates in the race, and I do think it has to be an America First candidate that leads the country forward. However, between it's the tried and true, I admit. If you want tried and true, you go with Donald Trump. If you want the next generation with fresh legs to lead us forward, you go with me. And I think that that's going to be the successful formula that leads us to success in this race.
I'm going to follow up on something you said earlier. You said that you would pardon Donald Trump on these unjust charges. So if you pardon him on taking national secrets without permission, not returning them, lying to the FBI, et cetera, does that mean that Joe Biden is allowed to do the same thing? That he could just take national secrets, show them to anyone he likes? Even after he's president, he could just take the documents, bring them home, show them to anyone he likes.
That's so funny.
And maybe other people too, anyone who's got access to national secrets. Can they just show them to everyone? Or is it just a special privilege that Donald Trump gets to have because you like him?
Well, it is whether you like the law or not, I believe in this thing called the law. And the law does give what's that?
I say I'd love to see it because Donald Trump has broken about a dozen laws, and you'd say you'd pardon him on every one of those criminal actions.
Well,
so okay, prove it.
I think part of the reason why is that those laws that are alleged to be broken, I don't believe have been broken here. If I did believe that and believe it was definitive, then I wouldn't adopt the position that I do.
Full of shit.
Every case brought against.
How does anybody buy his bullshit? I don't understand. He's the most disingenuous person I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's so obvious in the tone of his voice too. You know what I mean?
I don't get it. It's so transparent. I guess you just can't tell some people.
Levels a novel legal theory never before used. So for the particular case that you asked about, and I believe in getting into details, details matter. If you're going to convict somebody criminally, yes, the details doggone well matter.
Doggone
So
well
the Presidential Records Act explicitly lays out the criteria for what documents.
Do you reckon he goes over what he's going to say and what, like, American lingo he's going to throw in there?
Yeah, he's so rehearsed.
He rehearses it with his wife or something? Like in bed at night, is just rehearsing his lingo.
Maybe he like records himself and then like listens to himself on repeat.
That would be the best one.
That would be so megalomaniac.
That would be hilarious. He's just got his entire phone is full of videos of himself. It's like an Instagram of a dude that's just pictures of himself and his dog. That guy's a psycho.
God damn it, Jack. It's true though. If you see a guy where it's basically if they especially aren't showing themselves and it's only pictures of their dog on their Instagram, psycho.
Every time.
President is and is not able to access. If you don't like the law, change the law. But part of the reason is that we already entrust the U.S. president with making all kinds of incredible judgments, whether or not to use nuclear weapons on down. So yes, that same president we do entrust when leaving office with access to those same records. The judges have interpreted it, and even in the Clinton sock drawer case, as it related to Bill Clinton, revealing undoubtedly classified information afterwards, a judge explicitly came down on interpreting that statute. So I've laid this out in detailed articles in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere, but why am I bothering talking about it as opposed to legal scholars elsewhere? Let them debate it. My job.
I cannot describe how much I loathe that speech pattern where it's like, pose a question, let me answer that for you. Fuck off.
It's
Fuck right off.
You know why? You know what it is? This is a guy who sells you a timeshare.
Yes, that's exactly who it is. That's exactly the kind of, it's the corporate speech. It's salesman speech. It's fucking horrible. It's the worst.
Job is to unite this country. And I do not think it sets a good precedent when the president of the United States and the Justice Department under him uses police force to indict its political opponents in the middle of an election and then issue gag orders to say that that opponent during the presidential election can't even talk about that relevant set of issues. I just don't think that's a good precedent, and I don't want to see that.
Maybe Trump shouldn't come out in press conferences openly bagging the fucking judge, forcing the gag order. Maybe that is a good idea. Huh?
I'm surprised you know about that.
I did see that, yeah. So like maybe that would help. Hot tip.
In one direction or the other, that's wrong.
Do you believe it's a good precedent to implement a slate of fake electors to overturn the results of our democratic process and go against the will of the American voters?
So look, I think that there were serious issues that need to be discussed relating to election integrity. However, I would not have made those same judgments that Donald Trump did. This, though, belongs to the voters. This is a judgment for the voters of this country, not a judgment for a justice system that lands people in prison as its ultimate goal, especially political opponents. I just think that's bad for the United States of America.
Okay.
So leave it to the voters. Trust the voters to make the decision of who governs.
Okay.
Instead of trying to take it out.
So what if these charges were brought under a Republican government? Theoretically. What do you reckon? Do you reckon they'd still have the same shitty talking points? That it's like a never Trumper thing inside the Republican Party that started this? I feel like they would. It would be the same bullshit.
Out of the voters' hands. And I don't think that should be a controversial idea.
Yeah, it's definitely controversial because what you're saying is
leaving it to the voters is controversial.
No, not that. Hold on.
When the former president broke laws, including going against the will of the American voters by implementing a slate of fake electors, which were noted as such in memos passed around within the Trump campaign. They were referred to as fake and fraudulent electors by Trump's co-conspirators. That is part of the evidence. Another piece of evidence that I think is compelling, to say the least, is that they had fake electors in the state of New Mexico, which had absolutely no pending litigation in regard to election fraud.
We have a legal system, and if you want to go into the details of this, the First Amendment absolutely protects, and courts have held this for a long time, dating back to a case called Alvarez, I think it was in 2012, that political officials, including candidates for election, unfortunately, like it or not, have.
This is boring. I'm over it.
Yeah, go to the next one. See what's there.
I'm fucking over it. Fuck this guy. Look, a clip. Oh, this is a civics test. Okay.
Like to disenfranchise voters between the ages of 18 and 25.
Wrong.
You want to increase the voting age to 25 years old. Why do you want to do that?
Well, I don't want to disenfranchise anybody, but I do think that we need to revive civic duty in this country. So right now, I think we suffer a crisis of national pride in the United States of America. So the same logic that we apply to immigrants who want to come to this country, to say that you have to know something about the country before you vote in that country, I think it is fair to apply that same logic to somebody who turns 18 and acquires their citizenship that way. And if not that, then at least to serve the country in some minimal way. So if you ask me, are we better off or worse off as a nation if every high school senior has to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen? I think that will make our country stronger. I think that will make our country more united. I think that will make our voting populace more informed, people more proud to be an American. There was a 10-year-old girl who approached me in Iowa last week, having heard about this policy and some of the criticisms from the left and otherwise. She printed out the 100-question test. She scored 100%, 60% is a passing score. If a 10-year-old girl in Iowa can do it, yes, every high school senior can and should too.
Bro, I could
That's not a
probably do
Republican idea or a Democrat idea. Now,
like literally, I could probably do it. What'd they say? 60? 60 is a passing mark? We should do it.
And then
we should make me take
it. What happens to these schools, especially in urban neighborhoods, where they don't even get most of their students to senior level? Most of the kids don't graduate.
Good question. Probably won't have an answer for that.
He's going to say, well, with school choice, we'll fix that.
Yeah. Great idea.
Voting rates amongst young Americans will actually skyrocket once we revive that sense of civic pride and civic duty. I also favor making Election Day a national holiday. We should make voting in this country a civic ritual, that it should mean.
Like the fact that voting isn't a public holiday and you have to take time off work to vote is ridiculous. Weekend or public holiday, it's very easy, simple. Like it shouldn't be even a discussion.
Means something. It unites us to say that we take the time to know about our country.
Got a big knot in his butt.
Oh, you rat.
Yeah.
Constitution, and then participate in our republic. And so I'm not saying you have to agree with me on that, but I do think that if you're not going to agree with me on that, then I challenge you to find a better idea, and I'm open to it myself, for how we revive that missing civic pride in our country. But one way or another, we're going to have to think outside of the existing box to do it. And that's part of where I'm leading the way.
So Vivek, I want to ask a follow-up on that. I have an idea that I've discussed on the show before. I think that after people leave high school, they can go to the military, Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, et cetera. I think it unites the country. So I understand I have a different idea.
I think that's interesting.
Okay, now in terms of the,
you say they need to know. My policy: send these kids to the heart of darkness. Chuck's speaking my language now.
But you know that if you knew civics, that this country also has a history of poll taxes, literacy tests, et cetera, to specifically disenfranchise some voters. And so, and you know that the Republicans are losing under 25-year-old voters in a massive way. And that is absolutely clear based on the demographics, on the polling information. So it looks really convenient that all of a sudden you don't want as many young voters, et cetera. But here comes the question. So if we did your literacy test, your civics test, and it turned out that 80% of Republicans don't pass it, but 60% of Democrats do pass it. So it's a massive, massive disadvantage for Republicans. You just can't get your ignorant young folks, it's a hypothetical, ignorant young folks that are Republicans to pass any of these tests. Are you still okay with saying, no, 80% of Republican voters that are young, you can't vote because you're too ignorant?
I'm okay with it regardless. And I think that the reason we apply the standard is, think about the logic. The poll taxes, a lot of those were made with the explicit purpose of disenfranchising specific groups of people at a point in our national history when we were coming off of some inequitable treatment historically in the eyes of the law. Thankfully, we've moved up forward this country many decades past where we were even in the civil rights movement. Now today, we do, I will remind you, there's a reason why we require every immigrant to this country to know those things before they vote. That's a good thing, by the way. I think that's important. But that same logic, if an immigrant has to know it.
Okay, I'm so over this guy. I swear to God, if this is another clip.
I mean, we've seen so much of him at this point. Like,
Vivek, you've
said, oh my God, fuck off.
The rest are like, I sent you each of the clips so you can pick your favorite topic of him.
Vivek,
oh my God, are these literally all just clips?
Yeah, there's a few of them for you to pick your favorite.
I don't want to listen to him talk.
You've said that.
This is awful.
Then there's the last one is Joe Biden. Do you want to watch Joe Biden? Or do you want to something else?
Hold on. That was the administrative state. I want to hear his babbling on about the administrative state. Here we go.
You have proposed cutting giant parts of the United States government at the federal level and at the executive level. So without getting into all of it, let me just name three of them: Department of Education, FBI, and IRS. So to most people, that sounds a little crazy. Are we not going to collect taxes? Are we not going to do law enforcement? So tell us why getting rid of the IRS, as an example, makes any sense at all.
Well, I think that's just an administrative reorganization. Downsize it, move it to the US Treasury so it's a revenue collection process. I can tell you about the FBI. I mean, this is the one I get a lot of questions about, and I think is the most understandable pushback that people have, and I can do the education one too. There's 35,000 employees at the FBI. 20,000 of them are in back office functions in the J. Edgar Hoover building and back offices in this bureau.
Click this link.
They can go home and find honest work in the.
You're gonna love this.
What's this one? What's this one?
Well, one of the adjunct members of the Hamas caucus is the venerable and intelligent Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm joking. Of course, she's a moron. There's an intersectional coalition to take on the hulls and the pillars of power.
What?
He called one of the members of the Hamas caucus is what he just said. That's so funny.
Can you tap the microphone?
Oh, my gain's just up because of the chinchilla jumping around. Sorry, I said he was saying that he called her the Hamas caucus.
This is ridiculous. He's such an idiot. Buddy? He's not speaking.
He is, though. Come here.
Everyone left. Nobody likes the chinchilla. Or maybe Ben Shapiro scared them away.
You wonder why AOC got sucked into this thing? You think AOC knows bleep about the Middle East? AOC barely knows how to tie her shoes in the morning. AOC can't make herself a bowl of oatmeal. That lady has the IQ of a kumquat. What is she? I mean, there's literal tape of her with Margaret Hoover explaining she knows nothing about the Middle East. Nothing.
You use the term the occupation of Palestine. What did you mean by that? Oh, I think what I meant is like the settlements that are increasing in some of these areas and places where or Palestinians are experiencing difficulty in access to their housing and homes.
Do you think you can expand on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd also just, I am not the expert on geopolitics on this issue, you know?
And yet that lady is extremely vocal about all this. Why?
Yeah, it's not her job.
Let me fix your butt.
Like, the fuck are you talking about? It's literally not her job. Who gives a shit?
Why? Well, because again, she is part of the dispossessed coalition. This is the intersectional coalition that must be upheld at all costs, even at the expense of lots and lots of dead Jews.
Is he talking?
No, not really.
Turn the gain down.
He's not making any noise. He might chew on the microphone. He took a big chunk out of the phone. He did not hesitate. The thing is, so it's getting to see, I'm trying to work. There's like a feather on his butt. You can see it maybe on this side. I'm trying to work this out of him because he's it's like getting to winter where they're like shedding and stuff. Oh, his head has got all kinds of like loose fur. The fur's just flying everywhere right now. I know, pal. But they don't like their butts touched because they think they're being dominated. I know, pal.
Silly animals.
That's what's going on here. This is why AOC, party girl of the Democratic Socialists of America, is suddenly deeply concerned about Iron Dome. And this ridiculous Instagram, TikTok dope. I mean, here she was yesterday talking about tax the rich and slicing lemons on the Instas. Also, she's very much in favor of the Hamas. She kind of likes them. They're kind of cool. Why? They would kill her first opportunity, by the way. I mean, like, one of my favorite things about the intersectional coalition is that they're willing to ride or die with Hamas up until the point where Hamas actually kills them.
Instantly took out of that.
The fuck? It's a big hole.
Yeah, I was shocked that he instantly just went ka-chomp.
I noted yesterday, again, at the University of Florida, there were two protests that were simultaneously held outside my lecture at the University of Florida, both fairly small.
Oh, no.
One of them was a protest by the LGBTQ crowd, and the other was a protest by the pro-Hamas
not
crowd.
the bit of quiz. Can't possibly have them protesting. Got to have them silenced and eradicated, right, Ben?
They get along all the way until the pro-Hamas crowd decides to kill every member of the LGBTQ crowd. In any case, here was AOC yesterday promoting her democratic socialist ideals like, well, oh my God, like here's a lemon and I can slice it and it's like a citrus. Ooh.
Shout out to my radicals who think that maybe one way that we can deal with a lot of the shortfall that we have is to do things like legalize marijuana and tax the commerce on that so that we can fund our schools. Or I don't know, tax the rich. Maybe we can tax the rich so that people who have helipads on their house or near their house can help chip in for.
If you shake your head like AOC, it makes you intelligent. It doesn't make you look like a doofus from the Valley circa 1997. If you go like this a lot, it means that you're smart, according to the media. By the way, that sweatshirt she's wearing, the Tax the Rich sweatshirt, you can buy it for $58 on her website. Exciting news from the Tax the Rich crowd. Last month, the G20 announced a plan to impose digital currencies and digital IDs on their respective populations. The G20, the group of 20, it's an international.
I do find it pretty funny whenever someone's like, this socialist is selling this product for X amount of a lot of money. I always laugh because it is kind of funny because they're like, oh, okay, they're appealing to this crowd that may not have a lot of money, but then this jumper is $70 US. The fuck are you asking for? And it's just some drop shipped hoodie. Fuck off.
Forum for governments and central bank governors. It was established in response to the financial crises of the late 1990s with the aim of promoting international financial stability. Central bank digital currencies allow the government to track every purchase you make. It could even give officials the ability to prohibit you from purchasing certain items or freeze your accounts altogether. There's reason to be concerned about that. Civilians. The most recent attack was massive. It was devastating. Killed over 1,500 Israeli men, women, children, babies. Thousands more have been injured.
He just
200
into
are being held hostage after being kidnapped. The sworn enemy of Israel and the Jews will stop at nothing to slaughter every last Jew, obviously, but there is something you can do. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is on the ground right now, providing critical essentials like food, medicine, and other emergency supplies for vulnerable Jews. The coalition is all, and the entire media are in support of this. This is why, for example, Charles.
It's just ads, yeah. It's wild.
Blow has a piece at the New York Times again. His name is Apt. His columns absolutely blow.
Okay,
They are awful universally.
I think we're done with that.
He has an entire piece of the New York Times today called
Are we done with this one? Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, he was just insulted. Is he gonna insult AOC more?
I think so. I think that's
okay. Then I want to keep watching him because he was saying funny things about AOC. But if you already clicked away, that's fine because I just sent you. I sent you a great video.
Oh my God.
Absolute bedlam on the Italian island of Lampedusa. Imagine living on a small island.
British jump scare.
6,000 people. Then in one single day, 6,000 male African migrants arrived to double.
Not the male Africans. Oh no!
I don't think this is the
it's
kind
his
of
camera
diversity we're
angle
looking for.
and like how close he has to get to the camera. I'm just like, can you calm the fuck down, dude?
Let's play spot all the doctors and scientists.
Oh my God.
10,000 plus, mostly military-aged young men, arrived in the space of a week
I hate
on
this
an
word.
island that measures just 8 square miles. Migrants are now building roadblocks to prevent police getting anywhere near them, establishing territorial control over many areas of the island.
Based.
Good. I hope they are.
That's so funny.
Lampedusa's deputy mayor, Attilio Lucid, led a passionate counter-protest.
Perché siamo stanchi di accogliere, siamo stanchi, questa non è accoglienza, questa è una falsa accoglienza, Lampedusa non può venire 200.000 immigrati sull'isola, devono dimettere.
The Italian authorities are responding by not deporting any of them, but by dispersing them throughout the rest of Italy and Europe, including the UK.
Not the UK. No, not more migrants to the UK.
Oh no, labor they can exploit. How awful.
Whatever will they do?
Où les clandestins sont en train d'être évacués, ils vont partir en Sicile dans des centres pour migrants et ensuite ils vont être répartis dans l'Europe entière, dans la France, dans la Grande-Bretagne. Certains vont réussir à.
Paul Joseph Watson would be terrified in a group of black people like that. He would be shivering.
S'échapper et à rejoindre leur destination.
He's an awful fucking human being.
De manière
like out of everything out of InfoWars, Alex Jones, all of that shit, he is the worst thing to come out of it.
Oh, I didn't know he came out of InfoWars.
Yeah, that's where he started.
Interesting.
Yeah.
je dirais, dans tous les pays d'Europe.
Fantastic, can't wait. As these desperate refugees fleeing war and persecution film themselves on iPhones partying it up with female German and French tourists.
There goes that whole thing where it's like, oh, you can't, the whole idea that because they're in Africa, they can't have smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
Like iPhones aren't $100.
How do they know it's an iPhone?
Well, good question. I'm assuming that the videos show them having iPhones. I'm
what
just giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Huawei? Do we care if it's a Huawei phone or only iPhone?
I guess only iPhones.
I've seen homeless people at soup kitchens with iPhones. Guess when I started seeing that?
When?
Maybe like 2 decades ago. I don't know. When did the iPhone first come out?
That's funny.
Cultural enrichment incoming.
Man, how dare they have a good time? Criminal.
Did you see the thing where so like in New York City there's like a anti Dominican culture among like.
Yes, I have heard about this. Yeah,
and like so they literally like stacked and made a cinder block Barbie.
Okay.
And fucking roasted an entire pig on the sidewalk, right?
Cool.
Completely sanitary, right? Like it might be filthy New York City, but it's on like stakes in a cinder block rotisserie, right?
Yeah.
They're using like not their hands to like rotate the pig, right?
It's on a proper rotisserie.
Yeah, I would eat the. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, it sounds delicious.
And so this is the type. I guarantee you, if I go and I look through his comments and I search and I try to find this, like I go far enough back, I'll find him complaining about this video that went viral of these Dominicans roasting a pig.
He probably does have one. I would not be
guarantee it.
surprised.
I guarantee it.
Yeah,
because that's how it came across my feed, is these racists. Oh, slow-mo replay. Oh, he touched her butt.
Where's the red circle? I'm waiting for the red circle.
Cold turkey may be great on sandwiches, but there's a better way to break your bad habits. I'm not talking about some woo-woo hypno. Even from destructive habits by people.
Fuck off.
Now back to the video. The police are totally outnumbered as migrants scale fences to escape detention centres.
Oh no. You mean migrant overflow facilities?
Huh?
They're escaping migrant overflow facilities.
Oh, is that what they're escaping?
No, he said detention centers. Not jail, not prison. What does that mean? They're detaining them.
Yeah. Interesting.
These are what we call concentration camps here, and cry on MSNBC.
Yeah. Oh, so they'd be what they have on in Australia, but on isolated islands, so they can't escape into mainland Australia. That's what they should be doing. Ship them to islands. Yeah, like Guantanamo.
Hear me out. Technically, Sicily's an island.
Send them all to Sicily.
We're anti-Sicilian.
Huh?
I said we're anti-Sicilian in this house.
Many residents who have never protested before against illegal immigration are saying enough is enough. In recent years, I've not bothered to take action on this issue, but now I feel instinctively that I have to protect my children because I don't know what will happen to Lampedusa in the future. While others chastise journalists and the media in general for continuing to falsely refer to them as refugees.
You famously said that the name Fredo was like the N-word for Italians.
Yes, that was a mistake.
Giorgia Maloney ran on a campaign to halt illegal boat migration. They called hers the most right-wing government since World War II. They called Maloney herself far right. Over 125,000 illegal migrants have arrived in Italy so far this year, all under Maloney's watch. That's already beaten last year's total of 105,000, and we've still got 3 months left. If she's far right, what would the centrist policy be? Over 1 million boat migrants arriving in a year? The left-wing policy, what? Over 10 million? Alex Phillips even claimed that Russia and the
does Paul Joseph Watson know that we used to pay Gaddafi to just kill these migrants before they got on the boat?
I'm gonna say no.
And by we, I mean Italy specifically did this.
Wait, did they really?
Yes.
The fuck?
They still pay the Libyan fucking Coast Guard to sink these ships, bro. We get video of it all the time.
That's hilarious. Oh, but she's not far right because migrants.
We're behind
and, you know, when Gaddafi fell, all these migrants immediately started being like sold as slaves, right? And then like the slave markets like were eventually dealt with, right? It's been a port of entry through Libya for the longest time.
Yeah.
You know, Gaddafi just, you know, had no problems taking money to just kill them.
Yeah. It's no surprise.
She was given intel that Moscow bussed thousands to the Polish border in a coordinated act of warfare, presumably to punish Maloney for cozying up to Zelensky. Reportedly, migrants in Burkina Faso, an ally of Russia, were bombarded with messages.
An ally of Russia.
Okay. It is now. Not the best source he's using here.
Yeah, I was going to say. Where are they
not
from?
The best source.
They're just like kind of fashy. They're like a Ukrainian one. A lot of Ukrainian supporters like them.
Okay.
They're fine on certain things.
Right.
They're far better than like our right-wing press, that's for sure.
Is about how they'd be welcomed in France with free money. And that's apparently the main reason they gave to French TV as to why they came, which, if true, underscores a key point. Time and time again, mass migration is being used as a weapon to deliberately destabilize Western countries and irrevocably change them forever. But forget Russia. This is all being facilitated by our government. Gaddafi warned the West time and time again that this would be their fate. Yet NATO toppled him, destroyed Libya,
Every
and their hired
time.
thugs lynched him on camera.
It's almost
European
like they have a
Commission
narrative.
President Ursula von der Leyen sprang into action to supposedly offer a solution for Lampedusa, to transfer those arriving in Lampedusa to other European nations, effectively rolling out the red carpet for millions more, emboldened by the knowledge that the drawbridge is down and they've been invited in.
Wait, was that he's got a shoe bill for a logo?
Yeah.
Does he understand where the shoe bill is from?
Isn't it from Mexico?
No. It's from the heart of darkness. It's literally in the middle of the Congo jungle is where they're from.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's one of the reasons why they're so passive with people is because they recognize if people are fishing, they can get fish. So like this is when like something that we've like as soon as like the early hominids were fishing these birds, and they're like there's not a lot going on in these birds' heads. Either.
No, they're very slow. But they're pretty cool. They're very cool animals.
They clap their beak and it sounds like a machine gun. Oh, bro! Al Shabaab just put out a memo. They're declaring Abiy Ahmed in Ethiopia like their enemy.
Seriously?
And like Scott, because Scott like doesn't appreciate my humor, you know. But I go on one hand, Al Shabaab say declaring war against Abiy Ahmed. On the other hand, Al Shabaab is declaring war on Abiy Ahmed.
Why do so few people trust Klaus Schwab?
We'll do this one. I'm not doing an hour of Ben Shapiro. That's not happening.
Oh, it was the Hamas caucus video. That's
it's an hour of Ben Shapiro. No.
No, I know. Have you heard about this fake lawyer who he's in Kenya? He's got arrested for being a fake lawyer. He won all his cases though.
What the fuck?
Right? So he's a fake lawyer who's represented 26 cases, won all of them. And now he's on trial because he's not an actual like certified lawyer. And I said, if this guy ends up like he's gonna end up representing himself, and if he ends up winning, he's got to be a lawyer then, right? Like, go ahead, if there's justice.
Surely that's qualification enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, it should be, because if he wins the trial, it proves that he's not guilty. You know?
Yeah. And it proves that he's a good lawyer. That's so funny.
Schwab and World Economic Forum. Like, why is it that they're in every single conversation of people? These guys want to control you. They want to make decisions for you. They want you to eat insects. There's no way they said you got to eat insects. They would never say such a thing. They would never say you shouldn't multiple camera or, views? You know, U.S. would no longer be a superpower. Why would they say such a thing? U.S. pays into World Economic Forum.
Why does he got to scroll?
Investigate it. We really.
I don't.
You're gonna hand me a class.
What is happening?
This man, Klaus Schwab, is actually a modern day Nostradamus. He knows how to predict the crisis from happening. He's got that kind of gift. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how much money they've raised, their expenses on an annual basis. You'll see who was invited to be a young global leader. 3 names. Wait till you see what Tulsi, Musk, and Vivek said to World Economic Forum. We'll cover that as well. And a bunch.
What's the bet he's going to bring up Justin Trudeau as being one of the World Economic Youth leaders? 100% he's going to, right?
I don't know. Other things. Having said that, stay tuned. We're going to study World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab in this episode. So give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you get value out of this video. Let's get right into it. So Klaus Schwab founded World Economic Forum in 1971 as a not-for-profit foundation.
Okay, why would you put your own logo there, not the World Economic Forum's?
I
Strange.
mean, look at who it is. the dude has unironically Mr. Brainwash pieces in his house. So
it is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. It was originally called the European Management Forum, and initially his focus was in the meetings on how European firms could catch up with the U.S. management practices. This is their mission statement: engage business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. Mission is committed to improve the state of the world. So far, sounds pretty good. They made a prediction on what they think is going to happen in 2030, 8 of them, which I think it's important for you to know. Here's some of the predictions. Number 1, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. By the way, this is from their website. This is a video they produced. Number 2, the U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. Instead, a handful of countries will dominate. Number 3, you won't die waiting for an organ donor. Instead, we won't transplant organs. We'll print new ones. Very interesting.
Hang on. They made these predictions for 2023?
2030.
But why does it say, why is he now misleading people with the graphic? I'm still like out of frame for when my show was in frame.
Oh, he did say 2023. What the fuck?
But before, I heard a 2030, right?
Yeah, no, but it's definitely, these are definitely their 2030 things.
You'll eat much less meat. If you like meat, you're kind of screwed here. Number 5, 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Sounds very noble, but who knows what that means? If the world's only going to be ran by 5 countries, there's not a superpower. So can they just choose to say this 10 million will be moving to your state? This 8 million is going here. They get to choose that if that's what integration means.
What is, how are you getting here? Fuck, Patrick, but David, you're so fucking stupid. What do you mean? It's going to be, do you think that the US does that now? We just are telling refugees where to go? Do you think the EU doesn't like handle their own, like, do you think Italy doesn't pay the Libyan Coast Guard to kill migrants?
I guess that's what they think. I have no idea.
What do you mean? 5 people are going to run the world? Is that how he interpreted that? That not having a superpower means 5 people are going to run the world?
Yeah, I guess he just arbitrarily came to the number 5. Don't know.
I mean, think about it, because like the projections that people have of how the U.S. state power is, how much it reaches. We've seen how much it reaches. We're seeing a wall of genocide form around where the power reaches on the Atlantic side. There's room for a power to come up on the other side of that line.
Definitely is. Yeah.
And it would just mean that that place, if it's as good as the U.S., it would be a developing place like Europe.
Yes.
It won't be, though.
No. Europe can't stop themselves from fighting each other.
Yeah,
will have to pay.
They don't have that outside of the hegemony line either. They don't have anyone to stop them from fighting.
Yeah.
Emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. Number 7, you could be preparing to go to Mars. Oh my God, can you imagine how they're trying to sell the people around the world? Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space.
Elon Musk tries to sell
Science will work out how to keep you healthy in space. The start of a journey to find alien life. Number 8, Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. How do you feel right now? Are you like watching this saying, there's no way this is true? Let me go Google this myself. Go ahead and do it. Pause the video, check it for yourself, and then come back and you'll see this
I'm
is
not
what
pausing
they're
the video.
telling you. If they're selling you a dream, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to live.
I got a great, I'm looking for, I want to see, you know, where these 8 points are. I want to see the original. It's got to be this. It's got to be this. Okay. It's got to be this. Okay. So we'll come back to the Patrick David. Click this link. Tell me if this is where he's pulling this all from. This video right here. It's got to be this. That's what I see everyone else referencing. So.
Thunderclaps. I think this is a new one.
No, it's 3 years old.
Interesting. From what I remember, they deleted the original.
We might here, so let me try this. Because this might be like a re-upload. For that. Is this the video? This video is from The Truth Shepherd, 33 views.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is the video.
Yeah, what? Hang on, what did it say up there?
What do you mean?
It said, go back. It gave a little underscore under subtitle. What does that say?
Based on the input of members of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Councils.
Hmm.
Now you hear that? You'll own nothing, and everything you'll rent. Corporate slave state.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
See, you know why they're putting this in here?
Mm.
Because these countries won't commit to the capitalist change system if they don't say, "Hey, if you stick with us, we'll definitely make sure you're shared as a superpower."
No, really.
I mean, come on. You think that the U.S. isn't going to be the only? You think the U.S.
Oh,
is
of course
gonna
they will be.
by 2030? You think there's going to be anyone else there? Come on.
In 7 years, that the US falls and someone takes its place, there's no way.
Whoa,
China's already
whoa,
on
it
the
didn't say
collapse.
fall. It just means somebody rises.
Sure. I mean, people say China, but there's no fucking way China's going anywhere. It's already gone.
Mm-hmm. But you see what I'm saying? This rhetoric is not necessarily to attract. What are you going to do? Do they need to convince us? No.
I don't know who they're trying to convince. Probably corporates, right?
And
this
states.
video is
And states.
Yeah, because this video feels very corporate.
Yes. Doubt. Where did it say eat the bugs?
It's a different one.
The thing is that they're manipulating this thing because like it's shit like cricket flour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a snow piercer, they eat the bug blocks for sustenance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, so the reason why we talk about like crickets and being a sustainable source of protein, right? So if you know anything about protein, you put a certain amount of grain and water into it, and it's usually like 10 times the amount of grain and water for like 1 pound of beef, right?
Sure, yeah.
Crickets, on the other hand, they actually come out with a positive, right? So if you put 1 unit of food and water, it makes 10 units of crickets instead of 10 units of food and water making 1 pound of beef.
Which, it makes sense, but also just eat other meat sources.
Yeah, but do you think this is coming to? You think that's going to come to America?
No, absolutely.
Cricket farms. Also, you can farm crickets right now. It's good money.
I bet it is.
This is some straight. You know who they're appealing to right now when they're talking about eating bugs? The reptilians. The reptilians are like, crickets, bugs. Uh-huh. Good. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you said this in the video.
Yep. I'm just making sure. Just check. You could
Fact
be.
check.
Could be. He didn't say you will.
Interesting. See that? See the question mark?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he didn't talk about that question mark, did he? He did bring up the alien life thing, but in like like it was a statement, not a question.
Mm-hmm. Oh, do you hear what there's? What was that? What was that follow up to the checks and the Western values? What was that? And then checks. Okay, what? So you mean we're going to be tested to our limits, and we must not forget and let democracy go in those limits? I was going to say it would be a lot more based if they're like democracy and capitalism are going to fall. You know, that would be cool.
Yeah, it really would have been
for a new system, better democracy.
They don't want
Democracy
capitalism
2.0.
to fall. They don't want capitalism to fall.
What if we
They
can
want
sell them on
capitalism
it being capitalism 2.0, but it's actually just communism?
Instead of whatever the fuck stakeholder capitalism is.
Yeah, well, it's communism.
Yeah.
Like, comment, share. Okay, let's go back to Patrick Bet David now. Now that we have seen the original source from
Why
Emperor
do so few
Palpatine.
people trust Klaus Schwab and World Economic Forum? Like, why is it that they're in every Western values will have been tested to the breaking point? Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be
What if we
forgotten.
just don't trust
How
any
do you feel
lobby?
right now? Are you like watching this thing? There's no way this is true. Let me go Google this myself.
Huh?
What if we just don't trust any lobby? And look, we did Google it, and we found out a lot of what you just said wasn't true.
Yeah, we did. Uh-huh.
So go ahead and do it. Pause the video, check it for yourself, and then come back.
did.
And
They
you'll
didn't say
see.
anything about bugs.
This is what they're telling you. If there's
Yeah, there were no bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. You're lying.
selling you a dream, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to live this life. Well, then follow whatever they're telling you. But if this is a nightmare type of a situation coming from their mouth to you, you may want to investigate these guys before we see them as experts and honorable leaders, and we subscribe to whatever they tell us to do. Now, here's their objectives. I'm going to read to you from their website. Stay tuned. Let me just read it to you. It's not going to sound real, but let me read it to you. So, look, I've been in the financial industry since 9/11, the day before 9/11, and I've owned stocks, bonds.
Fuck off.
He's going to sell us another one of his
Oh
fucking
my
scams.
god.
See? All this is, all the conservative brain rot shit. It's all it is to sell you gold and shit.
Look how many cuts there are here. Fuck off.
Never ran a business before. Klaus Schwab is not a businessman. He pays himself $1 million a year, but he's not a businessman. He's
my man. The World Economic Forum is a business. It's an NGO. I'm pretty sure it's an NGO. It's a non-profit. It's something like that.
Yeah, isn't it based how you can get $1 million and run an NGO?
Yeah, it's literally a business. You actual clown. You keep selling your silver though, bro.
hurting small businesses like you and I who run businesses. He's not a fan of you. He wants to control you because he thinks he knows what's best for you. Slowing population growth. They're not saying depopulation. It's more like saying slowing population growth. It's a little bit more gentle. And Yuval Harari, who is their #2 guy at World Economic Forum, said the following about you. Humans are now hackable animals.
Yep.
Are you a hackable animal?
Yes.
That's what the #2 guy at World
That's what
Economic
you're
Forum.
counting on. Your viewers, you're trying to hack them like animals. You count on this. What a load of horse shit. And also the other thing, like that's all we got. We're not like, how about you just like when I put sources into videos, I'll take a screenshot of the entire web page and then highlight where the context is, right? I don't fucking cut shit or blur shit out. Now,
that's how I
this
would
whole
do
thing about slowing population. What is it about specifically? Are we talking about how the population is slowing? Because the population is slowing. And this is something that we see in natural selection. Darwin and shit showed this years ago. When resources on an island become scarce, they don't just, they literally reproduce less. They don't seek out mates and reproduce when resources get scarce, right? So this is why every scientist there is says overpopulation isn't going to happen. At the same time, we're already going to see these Africans that have the young population get displaced, and there's no Gaddafi to shoot them.
Thinks about you and me. How do you feel about that? Isn't this exciting? Like we're learning about an organization that you're just excited about, right? So how does this thing operate? What do they do? This organization meets annually in Davos, Switzerland. It convenes regional summits, industry summits, and other events around the world. Their revenue streams is funded through world's most significant business entities who join the forum as members and partners in order to participate. Approximately 1,000 corporations hold memberships in World Economic Forum, including Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and many others, which will take.
Why wouldn't they? What reason do these big companies have not to be a part of something like this?
What do you mean? We're going to own all the assets and the peons are only going to have to pay us rent? Like, how do we not see who's this advertising to?
Like, the whole thing is just selling capitalism at a more centralized aspect.
This guy is just making me want to go watch or go buy some Mr. Brainwash paintings, unironically.
No, you could go commission one, didn't you know?
Take a look at. Membership and partnership fees varies from $60,000 annually to $595,000
How much
annually.
do your membership and partnership fees cost?
It's like $20 to Google. I don't care.
He's probably got this like how to be a man course like they all
100%,
do.
100%.
Remember, even Ulalau had a fucking course.
Let's have a look, actually.
I'll look it up. Keep playing the video. I'll look it up.
Okay.
According to Bloomberg. And in 2022, there were approximately 2,000 delegates, including Al Gore, John Kerry, Christine Lagarde, Jen Stoltenberg,
George Soros!
Ursula von der Leyen, Henry Kissinger, George Soros, and many other high-profile names. You may be curious about the financial statement, what kind of money they're making, what kind of money they're paying out. This is what it looks like in the last 6 years.
The Elite Dinner Club has elites coming to their dinner.
Okay, so in millions of Swiss francs. It's really not as much as I thought. 400 million? It's not nearly as much as I thought it was going to be.
In 2017, they had total expense of $278 million, of which they paid $108 million to staff and $170 million to office and activity, and that led all the way down to today.
You're gonna guess the price tag on this shit. Did you see me just react? I got literally like grounded. Like my hands fell down and I got grounded.
No, I missed it.
I literally like I clicked it and I literally like went like it literally scared me. Guess the price tag on Patrick Bet-David's fucking all access course.
$130.
Not even close. 277. Guess how? I guess how often you pay that?
Monthly.
Yes. $300 a month to get his fucking courses, bro. Are you serious?
That is insane. Who would pay that?
Someone's gotta. He's a scam artist, man.
That's insane. What an insane price.
Now here I got different packages here. I'm clicking stuff now. This is gonna fuck.
Oh, there's gonna be like a $10,000 one.
Okay, learn how to master the art of public speaking. Start learning for $1,099.
Jesus Christ.
What the fuck?
You know what I'm gonna do to learn public speaking? I'm gonna go to the free acting classes in town.
Okay, I'm gonna hang on. Let's check out how much his sales system course is. Or you can save all this money. See, it's a value if you just pay. You can do it all in a month and only pay $277.
Or just download all his content and
ask
upload
about
it
bundle pricing. Fuck! I need to put an email in.
Pay the $300. Steal all the shit, upload it for free on Reddit.
Okay, this one, primary price, $1,497 for his sales course. Okay, it's like literally all you have to do to learn is just be aware and like be like, how much is he selling that course for? They all have a fucking course.
All of them. Literally all of them. That is the most expensive one that I've seen. That's nuts.
How much was the membership at the World Economic Forum again? He just went over it. Go back one frame.
It was 60,000 to 600,000.
Oh, what? A year?
Yeah.
That's probably a better investment, you think?
It probably would be, yeah.
2022, $383 million in expenses, $130 million to staff, $252 million to office and activity. 383, it's a good number, what they're spending every year, and they're able to get a lot of money from a lot of big names. I'll read you some of the companies right now, but you may ask, why are companies partnering with World Economic Forum? Here's what McKinsey said on what the benefits are to join World Economic Forum. WF partners with many international organizations and corporations to run projects addressing global concerns. This year, collaborations are focused on pursuing a net zero pathway, nurturing resilience, reimagining globalization, and supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is DEI.
DEA.
Wow. Why? Oh, why would these companies be a part of this?
Oh, no, it's DEI. DEI, that's right. DEI, the trigger word, the trigger acronym that we're supposed to be triggered by.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yep, he said it. Those are the magic words.
It's like
triggered.
I just don't understand how they can't put this together. Like, why these companies would be a part of this.
Oh no, he can. I don't know. Maybe he can't.
So stupid. Oh, so stupid.
In every part of society, do you see some touches of ESG in there? I kind of read that the DEI equals ESG, CEI, Corporate Equity Index score, all that stuff. That's kind of what you're hearing from one of the biggest consulting firms in the world, McKinsey. Now, if you're wondering what other companies are part of, let's read through some of the lists here that you may know. Accenture, AIG, Alibaba, Allianz, Amazon, Bain & Company, Bank of America,
God. We really need to go through
Bill and Melinda
alphabetical
Gates
order.
Foundation, BlackRock, Boston Consulting Group, BP, Bridgewater Associates, Chevron, Cisco, Citi, the Coca-Cola Company, Dell Technologies, Deloitte,
for a minute.
Makes you want to be a little bit skeptical, but let's go a little bit.
Surely nobody's going to sit through a minute of him listing companies. List 3 and be done with it. Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Deeper. What are some of the initiatives? The first one, which is kind of interesting. Remember earlier I said Nostradamus? Check this out. The Great Reset. You want to know what book Klaus Schwab wrote and when? Here's a question for you. I'm right now about to launch my business book that's going to come out here soon called Choose Your Enemies Wisely. Do you know how long we've been working on this book? A little over.
Don't care. Don't buy his book.
Another fucking ad for this.
Fuck him.
Do you see how much better Hezbollah TV is to watch? Do you understand why Hezbollah TV is so much better to watch?
For 2 years. How long do you think it takes to write your book, publish it, release it?
You didn't write it. You hired a ghostwriter. Shut the fuck up.
The book, printed the book in 3-4 months, or
he's still going on about it.
Not shall, not ought to, must participate in every industry, from oil and gas to tech, must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. Who are you to know what we need? From a
do you understand that Lenin was correct? Capitalism is about to eat itself.
And this is the final form. This is
imperialism
the last step.
is capitalism in decay. Didn't Lenin say that?
I don't know. Probably not. It's a bit profound.
Man who's never ran a business before. All you do is raise money, getting Europe to compete against US because US was your enemy. Somehow you fooled US to come and join WF. Now we must do what you want us to do. Since when does the world run this way? But wait for this. Famous line. You'll own nothing and be happy. Do you own anything? Are you happy? Do you live in a house you own? Is this your phone? Are you wearing the clothes you own? Do you like owning stuff that's yours that you worked hard for? Well, according to him, you ain't going to own none of that stuff, but you're still going to be very happy. Number 2 is another book that he wrote. He called it The Fourth Industrial Revolution. In this book, he describes the convergence of digital, biological,
the Fourth
and physical
Industrial
innovation.
Revolution is not a Klaus Schwab idea.
No, but this is probably his take on it.
Yeah, it's just him writing. It's just like another book written on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is inevitable.
Yeah. Like it really is inevitable. It's coming.
Yeah, it's literally about microchips, guys.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro released more
advances such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, predictive healthcare, and digital identities focus on societal implications of these rapid technological changes. And the 4 revolutions he talks about is the first one in 1784, steam, water, mechanical production equipment, 1870 is the second one, division of labor, electricity, and mass production, 1969, electronics, IT, automated production, and cyber physical systems. And the third one, stakeholder capitalism, which is one of his favorites, by the way. Stakeholder capitalism is a system which corporations are oriented to serve the interests of all their stakeholders. Sounds noble, okay? Among the key stakeholders are customers, suppliers, employees, shareholders.
It literally
and local
doesn't mean
Again,
anything.
sounds.
Yeah, it just means capitalism, but centralized.
It's just like board of directors will decide stuff more.
Yeah,
and like and will also like you know, like different lobbies will be able to. I mean, we already see it already, like lobbies influencing capitalism and boards and stuff.
Yeah.
It's noble if it's by choice, not by force. Under this system, a company's purpose is to create long-term value and not to maximize profits and enhance shareholder value at the cost of other stakeholders. This is how companies go out of business. And last but not least, World Economic Forum has been a proponent of this model, emphasizing a move away from the short-term shareholder value to long-term sustainable growth and responsibility. Once again, if he knew how to do this, why didn't you start your own company and do this yourself?
He did. You fucking idiot.
Why force others to do something that you've never done before? You've never started a company. These are valid questions to ask, which I would love to meet Klaus Schwab and do an interview with them to ask these respectful questions that many others have.
And this guy calls running a company starting a scam. It's like that's what a company is to him.
And number 4 is Young Global Leaders Program, which he launched in 2004. It seeks to identify and nurture the next generation.
Trudeau mentioned.
He hasn't mentioned him directly. He was there, but he wasn't.
It was a picture.
He wasn't said. His name wasn't said.
Recognizes individuals
he may bring up
for their professional accomplishments, commitment to society, and potential to contribute to shaping the future. 1,400 members, alumni of 120 nationalities, includes civic and business innovators, entrepreneurs, technology pioneers, educators, activists, artists, journalists, and many more. This list includes, and I'm going to read some more names for you. Are you ready? Putin's one, Trudeau's another one, Merkel, Macron, Newsom, Yarden, and many others. And by the way, they divided by different industries. Let me read you some of them.
I hit both
How old
of
is
them.
this video?
I hit both of them.
How old is this video?
1 month.
Jesus Christ. We're talking about people who don't even have power anymore?
Pretty much, yeah.
Buttigieg, Chelsea Clinton. I know her husband is a friend.
Lesbian one.
Okay, a friendly podcast guest we've had before. Nikki Haley, Adam Kinzinger, Jonathan Soros, son of George Soros, Lawrence Summers, Paul Krugman. In the media space, Fareed Zakaria, Anderson Cooper, Sanjay Gupta, Andrew Ross Sorkin, Thomas Friedman, George Stephanopoulos, Lachlan Murdoch, Maria Bartiromo. Now here's with technology and social media. Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, Bezos, Sergey Brin, nominated for poll. All 3 were nominated, but they said not interested. We're okay. You don't need to recognize us. Thank you, but thank you. So again, you pick and choose. You may be watching the same. I want to get nominated for this. Great. You can go get nominated for this guy. But you may say, I don't really want to get nominated. Well, here's what some people who said good things about him said. And here's what some people said bad things about the World Economic Forum. Let me read both of them to you. Number 1, Al Gore, boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs and sucking the moisture out of the land and creating the droughts and melting the ice and raising the sea level and causing these waves of climate refugees. It's kind of like, is that an encouraging message? If you listen to this, you almost want to go to space to leave Earth. Don't just like end of the world here. And that's positive to say good things about World Economic Forum. But let me give you some of the other side. Here's what Ron DeSantis said. The elites in the Davos World Economic Forum want to run everything and turn everybody else on the planet into a serf.
He's going to be irrelevant next year.
Tucker said the World Economic Forum seems
Ron
to exist to
DeSantis
destroy
against serfs
national
and peasants,
economies.
but wants to teach why slavery was good?
Unbelievable.
World Economic Forum, unelected world government. And I'll read this one to you for somebody from the Labor Party, Swiss Labor Party, liberal, left, progressive, like an Antifa of Swiss. Here's what Alexander Enlin had to say about
Antifa,
this. The main yearly meeting of CEOs of transnational corporations and bourgeois.
What?
So this guy. He's like this Antifa super soldier. Cuts to him. He's got like a business suit on and like a little rainbow flag on his lapel. Like, oh yeah, that's definitely an Antifa super soldier.
Yeah, has to be.
Bourgeoisie politicians from leading capitalist countries who discuss without any democratic legitimacy nor any control from the people questions that concern everyone. The countries of the global south have nothing to say about decisions that will harm them. This kind of forum shows the fundamentally anti-democratic, oligarchic nature of our system. The protection of the environment is also a major discussion in World Economic Forum. However, every year, 1,000 private jets fly to Davos, which is equal to the pollution emitted by 300,000 cars.
This is the only good criticism these people have of these people is that they fly their own private jets, which completely contradicts all of their statements and outward positioning. Like that's their only valid point.
Well, soon everything will be made by magnets.
All together. Man, they really care about this climate change stuff and protecting it for you and I. So how excited are you right now? Are you still saying, well, Pat, this is a little crazy. Come on, man. You guys are overselling it. No problem. You ever had insects? Have you ever eaten insects? Well, I'm going to read this to you from their website just a year ago.
Oh, my God.
2022.
We're definitely going to look at this next time. But he's debating a guy who's on NIAC, which is the Iran lobby that we talk about in the episode about to drop. He's literally got a thing. The title is "You Support a Country That Hates Us." and like if this guy is sitting here owning like it's got to be like two idiots fighting, right? Surely. There's no way he can own this NIAC guy.
I wouldn't think so. Not from what I've seen. Yeah, we're almost done. 3 minutes.
Climate change, not private jets, not private jets. Even Mario's laughing. Insects could reduce climate change. Number one. Edible insects can produce equivalent amounts of quality protein when compared to animals. How awesome is that? Insects require less care and upkeep than livestock. That's true. Number three, we're actually running out of protein. Number four, insects are part of virtuous eco-cycle. Why don't you be virtuous and eat more insects? And number five.
Okay, I'm just going to bring up the fact that factory farming is not natural and probably shouldn't be a thing. If you get rid of factory farming, meat naturally either goes up in value.
Meat?
Huh?
Would you eat 3D printed meat?
Maybe.
What if it was part of the main ingredients were crickets?
Maybe.
Would you care, or would it be like hot dog time?
I mean,
I'm gonna eat my meat.
I don't really want a steak ending up looking and tasting and feeling like a hot dog.
No, but you know what I'm saying is like.
I don't think it'll ever replace an actual piece of meat. I don't think it'll ever get that good.
We can watch. I'm sure Rhett and Link have done an experiment where they eat it, but like even if like just hot dogs are the easiest thing to do, right? Like vegan hot dogs are really easy to do, even though I think they're gross. If you don't know what's in them, right? Because you have to make the like filament to 3D print, right?
Yeah.
If the protein base comes from insects, do you care?
I guess not. If it acts and it feels like an actual piece of meat, I guess not.
If you can only buy it is. If you can only pay for $2 of food a day, are you gonna care?
I guess not. $2.
Who do we think is gonna eat the bugs? Do we think it's gonna be us?
Oh, it's gonna be the poor people.
Not Patrick, but David.
It's
You know who's gonna eat the bugs? People who pay $1,000+ for this guy's courses. That's who's gonna eat the fucking bugs, dude.
Soylent Green is people.
You can start small and work your way up. It's just, why would you not want to eat insects? Isn't this noble? Doesn't it get you emotional thinking about how much they care about?
You understand Mexico is they eat more insects than any other nation on earth. They have this ant dish. They like the Western name that they'll tell you is that it's like a Mexican caviar, but they're ant eggs, right? And they taste like garlic, butter, and egg. They're just like eggs, right? It's not like even like actual ants inside. But then, like, the ants themselves, the ants have like a little bit of bitterness to them, but like they sell them as like snacks on the side of the road in some places.
Interesting.
Not so much like the Mexico City region, but like the Rancho regions and stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's still a lot of indigenous food culture that still has a lot of insect incorporation into like the real like authentic Mexican food, but it's like traditional authentic, not something that you'll see in like Mexico City unless you really like look for it.
Yeah. I mean, even in Australia, they bugs like the Aboriginal culture. Like it's probably pretty fucking common if you look around.
Who cares
also,
about judgment they do? Who else?
Coconut weevils in Asia.
Yeah,
they're good as fuck.
Makes you eat insects to live a healthier life. Eco. Who else makes you do that? Noble people at World Economic Forum. Look, I got to tell you, I like talking to everybody, and I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm telling you, I would love to talk to Klaus Schwab sincerely. I would love to fly out to Geneva to sit down and talk to this guy wherever he lives. I'd love to go to a place and have a conversation.
That would be great.
Klaus, this doesn't make any sense. There is no selling the dream. Everything is force, must, you better, all of this. That's just not the American way. And I feel you don't like the American way because the American way allows for us to
the planet is dying.
Yeah, but also like European culture is shit. So
oh yeah. First of all, we control Europe. So to think that he's selling anything like this, like if there's any place on Earth America controls,
it's Europe. Yeah, 100%. All right, let's finish this fucking.
Free to choose. If somebody wants to eat insects, go for it. Put mayonnaise on it, put mustard, hot sauce, whatever you want to do. But you can't say and fool American people saying eating insects is good for you. So if you're watching this saying
it is,
man, I've heard a lot about
we've been talking about this for the longest time, that cricket flour is going to be like especially like a fitness area. Cricket flour is going to be starting to be recommended in fitness areas. We've been talking about this for the longest time, that we're going to start incorporating crickets into a lot of, it's going to come from the health and wellness and fitness spectrums. Soon it's going to be these right-wing meatheads that he brings on his podcast that are going to be promoting cricket flour, and he's going to be promoting it too, and he's going to fucking sell his own cricket flour. Just watch.
Well, there are different things now, like instead of protein powders and stuff, there's like protein collagen waters and shit like that, so it's already changing. But yeah, if it does come from anywhere, it will be there. Anyway, I'm fucking hungry. I want food.
What do you want to sign out with?
You must have known you were wrong when your fingers were dipped inside me, searching for honey that would not come for you.